Chapter 370. In the country of rain, the rain continued to fall. Fugu was taking a nap on the sofa in the shop. Yaojia also said that Naruto could work part-time as a waiter and do odd jobs. For example, serving tea, pouring water, mopping the floor, passing a fruit platter, etc. However, Naruto rejected all of them with the word lazy. Outside the country of rain, the giant flying squirrel moved forward silently. However, from time to time, two dimples would appear on his face. This inexplicable smile looked very strange. The Great Snow Mountain Research Institute main floor. No matter how much the first Hokage and Hashirama begged, no matter what promises they made, the second Naruto, the younger brother of the first Naruto, Tobirama opened his eyes. His reaction was similar to when Hashirama woke up, but Tobirama's face showed a cruel smile. Interesting, it's this jutsu again. What's more interesting is that it didn't restrict my personality this time. There was a huge difference between Hashirama and Tobirama in terms of appearance. Hashirama's hairstyle was long and straight, similar to Hinata Ninji's hairstyle, but his hair was loose, and his bangs were combed from the middle to the sides. He also looked very neat. His skin was tanned by the sun. Tobirama, on the other hand, had short hair, a hedgehog head, white skin, and a very strong face. He stood there like a serious soldier. Tobirama stood with his back facing Hashirama. Therefore, the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was Naruto's projection and Gunny. Senju's gaze fell on Naruto for a moment, then he said to Guru, "Did you summon me back to this world?" Gunny's big eyes looked at the tall and handsome man in front of him. However, he pointed at Naruto and said, "It's not me, it's my master." Tobirama looked at Naruto again and frowned. He saw that Naruto was trying to hold back his laughter, so he said unhappily, "What's so funny?" The projection was much easier to control than the body. At least he couldn't laugh out loud. Naruto held back the smile in his heart and said seriously, "Ahem, that. First of all, welcome back to this world again. I just had a good chat with your brother, first Hokage-sama. Your brother misses you very much, so I summoned you." Tobirama's expression froze and unexpectedly said, "Brother is here too?" Immediately, Tobirama felt the power of Hashirama's remaining cells in the air. It was indeed the aura of his brother's chakra. Tobirama suddenly turned his head and saw Hashirama kneeling in the corner with his hands on his head. Hashirama's head was facing away from Naruto, so Hashirama could only see Naruto's buttocks. Very, very round female? Not my brother? Tobirama turned his head and asked, "Where is my brother?" Naruto raised his hand, and his face was smiling. He pointed his finger at Hashirama and said, "That's your brother." Tobirama turned his head again in doubt. This time, Hashirama looked more carefully. He was sure that it was a girl. He was about to scold Naruto, but he sensed his brother's aura from the woman. "What's going on?" Tobirama walked step by step towards the woman who was holding her head on the ground, and her body was bent forward in frustration. The girl's hair covered her face, and he couldn't see her appearance. "You are." Tobirama's words were halfway through. At this time, the girl suddenly made a move, and with lightning speed, she went behind Tobirama and was ready to stab the back of his head. When Hashirama was alive, he heard his brother say that the Edo Tensei was in his mind. This was the only way Hashirama could think of to avoid embarrassment. Solve Tobirama. However, the body Hashirama was using now was not his own, and he couldn't use chakra. Although Tobirama's body was not his, after all, chakra was not restricted. As soon as they fought, the winner was decided. Tobirama disappeared in the blink of an eye, and reappeared behind the first Hokage. Then he used taijutsu to catch the first Hokage. After seeing the outline of the girl's face, Tobirama's serious face was gradually replaced by disbelief. "Turn your head," Tobirama scolded. Being caught and yelled at by his brother, this was the first time in his life. No, it should be before or after death. But Hashirama didn't have the face to look at his brother. At this moment, he couldn't wait to find a hole to crawl into. Tobirama increased his strength, and the hand was about to be broken, but the other party was still unyielding. Tobirama turned the pressure into a pull. The girl was in his arms, and Tobirama saw the face very clearly. That's his brother's face. Tobarama lowered his head again and looked at his chest, and he raised his hand and poked it in disbelief. Hashirama was furious and waved his hand to open Tobarama's hand. Poke the egg. This violent roar was low and rough, and it was the original voice of Hashirama. It's really my brother. But this. Tobarama's eyes fell on Hashirama's chest. Hashirama raised his leg and kicked Tobarama's chin from the bottom to the top. Maybe because he was too shocked, or maybe because he didn't dare to challenge his brother. This time Tobarama didn't dodge and was kicked out. Puff. Naruto's projection had been lying on the ground without any image. At the same time, the giant flying squirrel suddenly covered its stomach and twitched on the ground. This made Deidara, who was bored and about to fall asleep on his shoulder. A little scorpion didn't fall down. When the two landed, Deidara was shocked and asked with concern, "What's wrong?" Naruto had a hard time holding back his laughter. The giant flying squirrel pouted his mouth, and his cheeks bulged. After adjusting a few times he finally said, "My stomach hurts. Ha 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 ha." Then he laughed hysterically. If you meet a person who said that his stomach hurts and then laughed, this person is either a madman or a fool. At this time, this giant flying squirrel was one of the two in the eyes of Deidara and Scorpion. Ah ha 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 ha. Puff. Zuck. Ha 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 ha. Puff. After failing to hold back his laughter a few times, the giant flying squirrel rolled around on the ground in laughter. Then, it hugged its stomach with one hand and hammered the ground with the other. Deidara looked at his ninja beast speechlessly and said to Scorpion, "I suddenly found that this child's brain seems to be a bit abnormal." Scorpion looked at the flying squirrel rolling on the ground with a serious face. "I don't feel attacked. Or, I will transform it into a puppet. I think I will laugh to death if I keep laughing like this, Deidara. Or I will bury a bomb in it." At the same time, the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. When the second Naruto Tobarama stood up from the ground, Naruto also barely controlled his projection to stand up again. But at this time, the second Naruto Tobarama said to Hashirama, "Brother." "No." "Big sister." "No, that. Should I call you brother? Or big sister?" Puff. Naruto once again collapsed on the ground. Naruto Tobarama's face had an expression of hopelessness. His heart was pierced. Chapter 371. In Naruto's laughter, the anger in Hashirama's eyes was rising. "Hey, kid. Are you sure you want to eat me?" Hashirama has never been so irritable as now. He wanted to beat someone up. It's best to cut off his head. Naruto held his stomach and straightened up, looking at Hashirama with a straight face for 3 seconds, then subconsciously moved his eyes down. When he saw the 2 bulging lumps of meat, he was stunned. Pfft. He laughed again. Naruto's face became gloomier, and he ordered Tobarama, "Did you invent this jutsu? You find a way to break it for me now. Otherwise." Hashirama released a death stare full of resentment to Tobarama. That dark little face, because of the forced stimulation of Hashirama's cells, was a little thin and looked terrible. Tobarama swallowed his saliva. It was the first time he saw such a broken brother. Subconsciously, he looked at Naruto, who was laughing. Still laughing. "It's really the ignorant who are fearless. I hope I won't let my brother get the opportunity in the future. Otherwise, my brother's anger." Tobarama suddenly shuddered. He thought of the day when he used Edo Tensei for the first time. His brother took him to the mountain and forced him to mate with monkeys. So terrible. Of course, in the end, after he repeatedly promised not to use this jutsu, his brother finally let him go. But he had no doubt that if he would rather die than obey, that day would be his doomsday. After all, half of his clothes were taken off by his brother. Then what? Today he may have a large group of monkeys. King monkeys go to hell. What the King monkeys? What's the problem? Hashirama's face was even darker, and his teeth made a terrible sound. Tobarama quickly came back to his senses and said, "No problem. I will break this jutsu." Tobarama couldn't control his eyes from looking at brother's chest, and looked down. But his intuition told him that if he looked again, the consequences would be very serious. So he quickly turned his head and looked at Naruto. He didn't know why, at this moment, He was a little grateful to Naruto's idea. After all, making a fool of his brother has always been the deepest thought in his heart. Thinking of his brother's female body, Tobirama wanted to find a place where no one was and laugh a few times. But even if he can't laugh, now he can die without regrets. Tobirama's hands quickly printed, and the speed was very fast. Release. Naruto, who was laughing, raised his head from the ground and looked over. After 3 seconds, nothing happened. Hashirama used Naruto's words to teach Naidame Hokage a lesson. You have a pig's brain. It's equal to 10 is equal to 10 is equal to 10 is 4 plus 6 is equal to 1 plus 9? 2 plus 8. Tobirama was stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto replied, "It means that as long as you know the principle of ninjutsu, the hand seals can be changed." Hand seals can be changed? How come I don't know? Tobirama looked at him blankly. Pfft. Naruto's frozen expression laughed again. Then he continued to hold his stomach and laughed. Tobirama was annoyed. Then he demonstrated Naruto's hand seal to summon Tobirama. He used this hand seal to summon you. See if you can see anything. Tobirama's reaction was the same as that of the first Hokage. However, nothing happened. Tobirama was shocked and shouted at Naruto. "Did you change my ninjutsu?" Naruto raised his head, held back his laughter for a second, and then laughed again. Pfft. Haha. Ha ha ha. Don't tease me, let me take a breath. I'm going to be killed by you. The god of shinobi and his brother were ridiculed. Tobirama suddenly found that the kid in front of him wasn't cute anymore. Hashirama. Tobirama. At the same time in the wilderness, the huge flying squirrel rolled several times on the ground. Deidara and Sasori didn't know what was going on, and were speechless. Deidara. That, you don't have a stomachache, do you? What made you so happy? After a long time, Naruto took a breath. I suddenly thought of a joke. Then he couldn't help but laugh again. Deidara asked strangely, "What joke?" Naruto said perfunctorily, "A ghost. Dead. Ha 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 ha." Then Naruto laughed again. Deidara and Sasori's indifferent face. Finally, Sasori suggested, "You should become smaller before laughing." Then the giant flying squirrel began to shrink to the size of a fist at a speed visible to the naked eye. Deidara took the little flying squirrel and put it in his pocket, ignoring the little flying squirrel who continued to laugh, and the two continued on their way. Sasori said, "It's deliberately playing a bear, right?" Deidara. Most likely, but it has been carrying us for a long time, so it should rest." The conversation between the two fell into Naruto's ears, and he couldn't help but feel a little moved. Naruto was quite tired along the way. Thus he stopped laughing. Sasori rolled his eyes. "Not laughing? I said a ghost? Pfft, dead. What's so funny about this story?" However, Deidara suddenly froze and said in surprise, "Sasori, you can tell jokes?" Then with a pfft sound, Deidara held his stomach and laughed, muttering, "Ha ha ha ha, Sasori can tell jokes, pfft, pfft. I'm dying of laughter. Ha 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 ha." Deidara's laughter evoked Naruto's laughter, and the two laughed crazily. After a long time, Naruto finally stopped his demonic laughter. At the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, Naruto, Hashirama, and Tobirama began to chat again. Naruto's original intention was to talk about the Uchiha clan. The security department, a law enforcement department, is actually a member of the Uchiha clan? What's wrong with your head? Is your original intention to push the Uchiha clan out of the Woodleaf? After learning that the Uchiha clan had been destroyed, Tobirama's expression was a little heavy. "I just arranged for them to do what they are good at," Naruto retorted. "But if you use your brain, you'll think that the law enforcers who are powerful but not the ruler of the village will easily cause other people to reject them." Tobirama was in a bad mood. "Oh? Do you have a way? If it was you, what would you do?" Naruto replied, "A law enforcement department like the security department must be integrated into various groups of people. This way, it won't let the clan that monopolizes the power become increasingly arrogant, and it won't let the controlled people reject people of different surnames because of it." Hashirama looked at Naruto unexpectedly. He could feel that what Naruto said makes sense, but he will not express his position, nor will he praise Naruto. He has vowed that no matter what, he will beat this little guy who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Tobarama fell into deep thought. What you said makes sense. Then, how do you think to deal with the relationship between the various clans in the village? Naruto smiled and said, this problem is also very simple. As long as you don't see the clan as a whole, you see each person as a separate whole, eliminate the clan consciousness and strengthen individual rights. Take a chestnut. Rock, lime, water. The three put together are easy to distinguish, but if you grind the rock into sand and mix the lime and water together, it will form a strong cement. Saying that, Naruto magically used the image to simulate the operation of the layer. This made Hashirama and Tobarama, who didn't know what cement was, understand what Naruto wanted to express. Tobarama fell into deep thought. Naruto's example was vivid, and it was not difficult to analyze it. When he understood, his eyes couldn't help but light up. A bit interesting, but the concept of the clan is deeply ingrained. If you want to break the original clan system, it's not easy, right? Chapter 372. Hashirama snorted. Well, it's easy to say ninja families pass on ninjutsu to each other. What's more, like the Uchiha clan, Senju clan, Hyuga clan, and other clans with bloodline limits, they rarely intermarry with outsiders. The reason why the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan intermarry is that they inherited a strong physique. Because it doesn't pollute the bloodline, they can intermarry with each other. Naruto's mouth curved slightly, and his face was full of sarcasm. Why must we preserve the so-called bloodline? Because bloodline represents power? Hashirama stared at Naruto. Because we have power to protect the village, that's why ninjas exist. Naruto raised his eyebrows and sneered. Then your tolerance is just SSO. Your so-called village is just a big family. Your peace is just to gather stronger power, and threaten the enemy with strength. But the real power, the real ninja, can only be bred in the fire of war. This is an endless cycle. The war will never stop, and the world peace you yearn for is just a bubble-like dream. Naruto's words were a bit harsh. Hashirama frowned, and Tobarama frowned. For this person who dared to scold his brother, Tobarama felt very much like him. After all, this was also his deepest wish buried in his heart. But at the right time, it's still necessary to be a peacemaker to ease the stiff atmosphere. Unless you have a solution to this problem, otherwise, we'll just be arguing. Tobarama's serious face, today he smiled kindly at Naruto. Naruto ignored Tobarama's kindness and asked, what is the reason for the war? Hashirama replied, all countries want to expand their territory. Naruto continued to ask, why expand territory? Naruto's approach made Hashirama not very happy. Of course, if it was someone else, he might not care. He had always been a kind and humble person. But Naruto actually gave him a woman's body, and let his brother see it. This hatred is big. However, Hashirama's tolerance was still there. He took a deep breath and calmed down the irritable mood of Kuben. He said, because of resources, a larger land means a wider hunting ground and more fields. Naruto smiled and said, finally you answered the right question. Resources are the source of the war. If it's a beast, then in order to survive, it must guard a piece of land, a piece of hunting ground. But people have wisdom. Why can't we do it in a more intelligent way? There are 5 countries in the east, west, south, north, and central. The geographical location of these 5 countries will inevitably lead to different resources. For example, Sanin the desert is in an oasis, they lack of water. Food and water. If food and water can't supply, they will inevitably have to expand their population. Increase. Of course, I'm just hypothesizing an example about resources. I haven't studied the actual situation. After emphasizing, Naruto continued. At this time, the neighboring country, Fire, has rich water resources and fertile land. What do you think Sanin will do? Hashirama looked at Naruto. It was a very simple question, but he still answered. Invasion. Naruto nodded and continued. Yes, it's an invasion. I believe it's the same if the 2 villages are reversed. On the other hand, if Sanin has the resources needed by Woodleaf in the Fire country, Woodleaf will also invade Sanin. Naruto shook his head. No, Wood Leaf is in the most fertile land. We don't lack food and water. Naruto rolled his eyes. In your eyes, is there nothing but food and water? Sanin is rich in gems, right? Those rich people like it very much, right? There are also many minerals. Well, forget it. Minerals haven't been developed in your era. With that said, Naruto looked at Hashirama with pity. Hashirama felt that something called self-esteem seemed to have been pricked. He was despised at this time. Tobirama spoke. I understand what you mean. You mean that the wind country also has something that the fire country needs, right? Naruto nodded again and praised. Oh, you are much better than your brother. If it wasn't for your brother's good blood and strength, he would be nothing. Hashirama's face was not only black, but his whole body was black. However, he didn't show any anger, but his mood suddenly became low. It seemed that he had suffered a great blow. Naruto comforted. Don't blame yourself, it's not your fault after all. The frog living in the well only has a big blue sky above its head. Naruto didn't comfort Hashirama, but after comforting him, Hashirama's soul was out of his body again. Naruto continued. Sanin has what Wood Leaf wants. Wood Leaf has what Sanin wants. Why don't the two sides trade with each other? The ancient trade is barter. Now that we have money, it's easier to measure the trade. Naruto suddenly felt refreshed. Next to him, Tobirama said. But trade also costs money, an invasion. It's a business without capital, so even if it can be traded, it's only between two forces with the same strength, for the weak forces still can't escape the fate of being invaded. Naruto praised again. You really are the one who established the Order of Wood Leaf. Even if you did the stupid thing of making the Uchiha clan the security department, it's still remarkable. At this moment, Tobirama and his brother finally had a resonance in their hearts. He wanted to give chubby Naruto a good beating. This guy's mouth. It's really bad. At this time, Hashirama suddenly answered proudly. I also thought about the balance of power, so I held the 5 countries conference to distribute the ninja beasts to other countries. Naruto looked at Hashirama as if he was mentally retarded. So is the war over? Hashirama's proud face darkened. Naruto's mood also became gloomy. I said the destruction of the Uchiha clan. I didn't say the destruction of the Uzumaki clan. According to my speculation, the destruction of the Uzumaki clan is entirely because of your decision. Hashirama suddenly raised his head and denied. Impossible. Naruto continued. The Uzumaki clan is good at sealing, right? Konoha's first Jinchuriki is Uzumaki Mito, your wife, right? When Wood Leaf mastered the power of the bijou, how many villages mastered it? Hashirama replied. Sanin, Naruto asked. What about the other villages? Will the other villages wait for you to attack them? Hashirama firmly said. I never thought of invading other villages. Naruto sneered. You said that if you want a fair trade, you must have the same force. Hashirama replied. So I gave them the ninja beasts. Naruto stared at Hashirama. But you didn't teach them how to seal the bijou and make the human pillar force, right? Hashirama replied. Let them study it by themselves. This can delay some time. After saying that, Hashirama was shocked. Is it for the sealing technique? They joined forces to deal with the Uzumaki clan? Naruto smiled. Shaking his head, he said. I don't know, this is just a guess. Hashirama didn't ridicule Naruto, he fell into a huge self-blame. Is it really me? Naruto waved his hand indifferently and said. I said so much to you, in fact, I just want to express one meaning. Yes, you are all wrong. The village you built is also wrong. So don't stand on the side of justice and criticize others. The pot calling the kettle black and the kettle calling the kettle black are both quite boring. Tobirama suddenly thought of something and stared at Naruto very seriously. So, what do you want to do? Unify the world? Chapter 373. The first Naruto Hashirama stared at Naruto with a serious face. The second Naruto Tobirama was also dignified. Both of them were waiting for Naruto's answer. 3 seconds passed, Naruto's expression was also dignified. However, in the 5th second, Naruto suddenly smiled. What I want to do is to live happily every day in the ninja world. Puff, puff, Puff! Naruto seemed to hear the sound of a broken heart and vomiting blood in the soul. One came from the great Naruto Hashirama, and the other came from his successor Tobirama. The other one was laughing, and it was Guni who had been watching the melon. Hashirama took a deep breath and said seriously, "Don't make trouble, this is a very serious matter. If you want to unify the ninja world, then I can choose to forget the hatred we made before." Tobirama also said, "Although I don't know how you have such a big vision at such a young age, I feel that if it's you, it's possible to do what we can't do." Speaking of this, Tobirama was obviously excited, and he couldn't even control himself. His eyes were burning with the flames of war. Conquering the world is the deepest dream in the hearts of all men. Tobirama clenched his fists and said, "If you have this idea, I am willing to assist you." Hashirama turned to his younger brother and said, "How can you assist me? You are already dead. Do you want to stay in this world with this ninjutsu? I will never allow this kind of thing. Edo Tensei is not a real resurrection, and the effect is very short. This body will be wasted in a few months. When the time comes, you'll sacrifice others." "This kind of thing," Tobirama interrupted his brother and said, "if sacrificing hundreds of people can exchange for the peace and prosperity of the whole world, even if I become an Asura, even if I commit heinous crimes, I am willing." Tobirama's words were loud and clear. His attitude was unprecedentedly tough. It can be seen that he has made the greatest determination. This determination is a determination that must be achieved even if he has to give up everything. Hashirama stared at his brother and didn't know what to say for a while, and finally spit out a sentence. "I still don't agree." Tobirama's expression became cold. "I don't need your consent, this is my choice." Then he said, "In order to protect the village, you killed your best friend Uchiha Madara, right?" Tobirama smiled a cold man's smile. "It's like a ray of sun. A ray of hope born in destruction. I can do that kind of thing." The scene in front of him fell into Naruto's eyes, and he suddenly felt something in his heart. His understanding of the ninja. From the mouth of the first Naruto. The so-called ninja is a group of people who endure hardships in order to achieve their goals. Because of different standpoints and different pursuits, different ninjas were born. Now Tobirama. Senju. Tobirama. What about Naruto? Is he interested in unifying the world? Unifying the world is a fart. There is no war, no death. What does it have to do with him? As long as he is full, warm, and live well, then he will be superior. It would be fine as long as he could live his entire life in an awesome manner. Or he could live his entire life in an awesome manner. That's right, he's a selfish person. Naruto can even be very shameless and proudly shout out his ideals. "I'm living for my own fun." But Tobirama Naruto's loyalty. Naruto's soul consciousness has begun to rub his hands nervously. What is this? A big pie fell from the sky. It's a super big one. 85% of Wood Leaf's forbidden jutsu was developed by Tobirama Naruto, and 85% of ninjutsu was developed or improved by Tobirama Naruto. Don't think that Naruto can change the Edo Tensei to something that even Tobirama Naruto can't solve. Naruto is better than Tobirama Naruto. Naruto is very clear about his own weight. His current achievements are just a little innovation that surpasses ordinary people in talisman arrays. Just like in his previous world, the programmer who developed a software is at most a little bit better because he developed an operating system. But that's it. If Tobirama Naruto learns the little bit of technology he understands, Naruto believes that Tobirama Naruto can definitely create something that he can't even imagine. Because the ninjutsu developed by Tobirama Naruto can be said to be almost created out of nothing, creating a precedent. And he is standing on the shoulder of a giant. Therefore, Tobirama Naruto's loyalty is very valuable. Motherf asterisk cur. This kind of afterthought can make me laugh out loud. Also, the main reason why he talks so much with these two people today is that there is nothing to do in the rain country. And it's boring to just sit there. Deidara and Sasori have been on the road, and it's even more boring. That's why Naruto found someone to chat with. And he originally planned to find Danzo to chat. Tobirama Naruto coming out is an accident. Tobirama Naruto purely wants to mock Naruto, and then say his own thoughts. What can it prove? I am better than you. If I am Naruto, I will definitely be better than you. Simply put, hindsight is zhuge bullsh asterisk ting. Is. Naruto took a deep breath. This time, if 100 points is the full score, Naruto will give himself 120 points. Naruto's inner world is already high. At this moment, the first Hokage Hashirama and the second Hokage Tobirama were still confronting each other. But in the end, Tobirama Naruto was defeated inside. You have your choice and I can't stop you now, but I won't stay in this world in this way. I will support you in spirit. After the two finished talking, Tobirama looked at Naruto. Naruto bent his knees and knelt on one knee in shock. This is the highest courtesy of an Umbu ninja to a superior. Ninjas need to be on guard against any danger that may happen at any moment, so the kneeling leg is obedience, and the other leg is support, ready to stand up to prevent emergencies. With the rest of my life. It seems that he didn't have any rest of his life. He changed his words temporarily. As long as you can bring peace to this world, I am willing to assist you. To be honest, Naruto's mouth is dry now. He has read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Cao Cao's tiger body shook, and warriors knelt down to surrender. That kind of thing should only happen in dreams. Damn it, Tobirama Naruto is surrendering to me. He's no less than Zhao Zilong of Changshan City. Tobirama Naruto stared at Naruto. Tobirama Naruto has already nodded and is waiting for his punishment. The atmosphere is unprecedentedly tense. This is a big scene. If Orochimaru saw this scene, he would be scared to death. At this time, Tobirama Naruto sighed. Sigh. If I live in this world, I really want to do something big with you. What a pity. What's a pity? Does Tobirama Naruto want to do something with him? Naruto's little sweetheart is dancing like an old disco today. Chapter 374. What should I say at this time? Isondersku. No, that's what the bride and groom said at the wedding ceremony. Naruto's head was a little dizzy now. He opened his mouth and said, "Dear Minister, please rise." Then he almost slapped himself in the face. You useless thing. Where did your usual death-seeking courage go? Isn't it just the loyalty of a second-generation Naruto? Nervous my ass. I'm not nervous. Naruto roared in his heart, but he was still nervous. How to say it, after all, he was one of the big figures who created Wood Leaf. Although Naruto's words were clear and logical, in fact, he was just a theoretical doctor. He was good at playing all kinds of single-player games. What team, what big picture, what is that? Do you expect an otaku to turn into an emperor or a general after crossing worlds? As for Naruto's shallow understanding, it was just that he once lived in a more developed world than Naruto's world. To put it simply, he used the experience in textbooks to pretend. If there's anything different about coming to this world, it's that his brain capacity is bigger now, and his thinking is more agile. Well, after devouring the soul of a ninja, he's more cold-blooded to human life. Naruto's words made the first-generation Naruto, the second-generation Naruto, and Guni all look confused. They didn't understand. After all, the difference between cultures is calculated in time and space. Tobirama raised his head and looked at Naruto. I beg you to keep me by your side, don't worry. I can find the body used for Edo Tensei myself. Naruto finally recovered and waved his hand. I don't need those few lives, there are 6 or 7 people coming to the Snow Mountain prison every few days. Since the reputation of the Snow Country virtual reality movie spread, the Snow Country didn't lack invaders. Naruto was very happy about this, otherwise, it would be troublesome to give Yakushi the Edo Tensei. You get up. From now on, you will stay by my side. That ahem Tobirama, don't be too reserved, just treat this place as your own home. Naruto felt that his tongue was a little off. No matter how he listened to it, it sounded like what his second aunt in the countryside had once said to him. But in order to cover up the awkwardness, he had to do something. Naruto raised his hand, and chakra of the Great Snow Mountain surged out, and helped the second Naruto up. He turned to look at the first Naruto. That you don't want to stay, right? Naruto nodded. It's fine. If you're willing to come here, you're always welcome. Come visit me often. Bah. He's trying to escape again. Escape my ass, he's already dead. Well, that's all for today. That Hashirama's body can still be used for 3 months. Have fun with me for the next 3 months. Today's ninja world is different from your time. And I've also invented a lot of fun things. Speaking of this, Naruto finally thought of the identity card. He called out to Big Fatty through the spiritual network. Give me 2 identity cards. One is temporary 1 star, and the other. How many stars should he give to Tobirama? 5 stars was impossible. The highest authority could only be in the hands of him, and the spiritual network administrator, Big Fatty. 4 star. After all, he was the village chief. Don't treat the village chief as a cadre. Give him a 4 star. Give me another 4 star. The matter was arranged. Big Fatty was soon ready. He put the 2 cards into a small box. Boss, you can summon now. Then he suddenly thought of something and quickly stopped him. No, wait, I gave you the wrong authority. I gave you the original body. Now you're using Guru's body, right? Alright, boss can communicate with his spirit now. Naruto received Big Fatty's report. He controlled Guru's body, triggered Guru's identity card, and then snapped his fingers casually. Snap. In front of Naruto's eyes, smoke rose due to Chakra's high concentration. Bang. Then 2 cards were caught in his hand before they fell to the ground. At the same time, there was also a knife. Naruto gave the 2 cards to the 2 and said, "This knife can bleed on the body of the Edo Tensei," and then drip the blood on the card to complete the binding. Tobirama took the knife. The knife cut his hand, and blood flowed out. He couldn't help but be surprised. This knife can reverse the life form of the Edo Tensei? It seems that your exploration of the Edo Tensei ninjutsu is no less than mine, or even better. For a moment, Tobirama looked at Naruto with a few traces of admiration and fanaticism. Naruto waved his hand casually. This is nothing, it's just a tree planted by the ancestors. Compared to you who created this technique, it's really nothing. After a round of flattery, both of them were very happy. Hashirama was unhappy. That kind of cruel ninjutsu shouldn't have appeared. Hashirama's holy light shone. However, it was beautifully ignored by the 2. Tobirama dripped blood on the card, and the novice tutorial appeared in front of him. His eyes were as wide as Columbus's when he first discovered the new world. His eyes were filled with surprise and disbelief. How is this done? Is this also a ninjutsu? Elder brother, come and take a look. As he said that, he stabbed the knife in first Naruto's hand. First Naruto happened to be holding the card in his hand, and the binding was successful. This time, the novice tutorial was optimized by Guru and the other girls. Different from the original simple version, it was a basic virtual reality projection system with a lifelike navigation wizard. As for the appearance, you can choose from Guru, Big Fatty, Snake, and Rolling Panda. Guru was a little elf with small wings on her back, and she assisted in explaining the control of the operation panel. Big Fatty Owl had wings and could fly on its own. Snake and Rolling Panda originally planned to add wings, but it didn't look right. They directly changed it to a transparent bubble under their buttocks, which was also very cute. Anyway, this time the operation panel only had 7 words. Visually cool. Awesome. Hashirama was a little reluctant at first, but the moment Guru's soft lowly voice sounded, his uncle's heart was instantly healed. Is this a ninjutsu of this era? Hashirama asked the same question that his brother had asked before. Naruto proudly replied, "No, the ninjutsu of this era is similar to that of your era. It only exists to kill people, and it's so monotonous that it's explosive. What you see is the result of my and my apprentice's research." At the same time, he recited the slogan, "Copyright, piracy will be investigated." Naruto was shocked. You and your apprentices? You already have apprentices? What do you mean you already have apprentices? I have a lot, okay? Naruto rolled his eyes. Let's go, I'll take you to the upper level to have a look. The 4 of them walked together, and Hashirama asked, "You said that someone stole your technology. Were you referring to this?" Naruto shook his head. No, Wood Leaf wanted to steal the combat prosthetic limbs I developed. The Edo Tensei just now wanted to steal the virtual reality movie technology. By the way, there are 3 virtual reality movies in the entertainment channel. You can take a look. In the novice tutorial, the entertainment channel was already introduced. The 2 of them didn't get lost and soon found it. Moreover, the navigation elf was in front of them at any time. Well, they needed to use the help panel. After all, the artificial intelligence wasn't out yet. The 2 brothers ordered a virtual reality movie to watch. 5 minutes later, they looked at Naruto at the same time. Need points. Naruto blinked. You want points? The 2 of them nodded again and again. The dazzling scenes of the virtual reality movie were like the claws of a kitten scratching their little hearts again and again. Naruto finally returned to his original character and smiled slyly. You have to earn points yourself. Well, the easiest way is to share ninjutsu. Naruto's little abacus started to crackle again. Speaking of which, first Naruto. Would he suddenly be infatuated with this world and not want to leave? Thinking of this, Naruto seriously pondered. He felt that virtual reality movies alone weren't enough. He should develop some virtual reality games. But before that, there was another thing to do, and that was to find Orochimaru. Orochimaru dared to threaten him. Naruto couldn't bear it. Chapter 375. It's a bit difficult to find Orochimaru's base, but Naruto has a bold plan in mind. He wants to make a satellite and scan the entire ninja world from the sky. Not to mention Orochimaru. Even Tsunade can be found. Also, he can scan the map of the entire world by the way. Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. What is this? Hashirama opened the refrigerator and was shocked to find that it was cold inside. He was surprised. Is there ice in the interlayer? Naruto's 3-dimensional projection floated past Hashirama like a lonely ghost and explained, by the way. That's the refrigerator. Used to keep it fresh, and used to store cold drinks and ice cream. Speaking of ice cream, Naruto suddenly thought of something. By the way, although the Edo Tensei can't eat, they can still taste a little ice cream. Naruto floated back and pointed to the ice cream cone inside and said, well, the green one is green apple flavor and the pink one is strawberry. You can choose one you like. Hashirama's eyes lit up and he chose the strawberry. Then he took a small bite. When the sweetness of the strawberry touched the taste buds on the tip of the tongue, Hashirama's face showed an extremely satisfied expression. Hashirama was enjoying it, making Tobirama, who was watching this scene, feel embarrassed. Oni-san, Naruto raised his hand, and Chakra of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was called, dragging the remaining green apple flavor ice cream cone and handing it to Tobirama. Try it, it tastes good. Tobirama hesitated for a moment but finally took it. It was cool and refreshing, and Tobirama's eyes lit up. But he wasn't as useless as Hashirama. He pretended to be calm, but he ate it extremely carefully, as if he was afraid to eat too much in one bite, which was also very cute. Did you also invent the refrigerator? Naruto shook his head. The refrigerator is an electrical product, a product of this era. Naruto took the 2 to the laboratory on the 2nd floor of the Great Snow Mountain. There were many prosthetic parts on the workbench of the laboratory on the 2nd floor. Tobirama picked up one of the prosthetic arms and was surprised. This is a puppet? Naruto explained. It's not wrong to call it a puppet, but this is a prosthetic limb, prepared for the wounded on the battlefield. At the mention of the disabled, Hashirama's mouth stopped moving, and he subconsciously looked at Guru. Gunyenji noticed that Gurney's legs were prosthetics at first glance. Tobirama said, would Leaf and the other juniors, they want these? Naruto pointed to the booth next to him and said, to be precise, those are the ones. First, I developed a prosthetic limb to solve the problem of the disabled with Leaf. Continue to improve on the basis of this, and issue combat prosthetics, which can allow disabled ninjas to continue to fight. Wood Leaf has a lot of disabled ninjas. If they can be turned into treasures, this will be a great combat power for Wood Leaf. Tobirama put down the prosthetic in his hand and picked up the thing called combat prosthetic that Naruto pointed out. Because there was no simulated skin rubber attached, the bare surface flashed with a metallic luster. But to Tobirama's surprise, this seemingly heavy object actually had the same weight as the previous wooden object. The workmanship of the combat prosthetic was exquisite, and every part and every finger was like a work of art. Tobirama tapped it with his finger and didn't dare to be very confident. Is this iron? Naruto explained. To be precise, it's an alloy. It's harder than iron, resistant to corrosion, abrasion, and lightweight. Tobirama's eyes were full of splendor. Then he picked up a seemingly empty shell next to him. This is unfinished? Naruto glanced at it and was a little surprised. This is a combat armor that was developed a long time ago. There was only a part from the wrist to the palm. Naruto raised his eyebrows and smiled. That's a more advanced thing for normal people to use. I call it combat armor. The development of combat armor is still similar to the structure of the first-generation Iron Man. There is no folding function, it's a separate part. Tobirama tried to put it on his hand, and found that it was a little small. However, when chakra connected with the forearm structure of the combat armor, the touch was still there. As a ninja, of course he understood what this meant. At the same time, he also noticed that the touch was similar to a sealing rune. Very magical. Naruto continued to explain. The development of the combat armor is still very simple. There are no weapons on it, and it's not a complete set yet. But in the next period of time, the combat armor will be completed very quickly. The living limbs of Gorny and the others are being cultivated. And when the cultivation is completed, their weapons will be replaced. After a simple stroll around the laboratory on the second floor, Naruto took the two up a long flight of stairs to the third floor. On the third floor, Little Gorny, Big Gorny, and Sakura Haruno were all there, but they weren't doing any research projects. Instead, they were playing poker. Stop playing, there's a new project to develop. Hearing that there's a new project, the girls' interest was piqued, and they all gathered together. Sakura Haruno turned her head, and when she saw the first Naruto and second Naruto, she was in a trance. The people of Woodleaf are very familiar with these two faces. After all, as long as they look up every day, they can see the big faces on Naruto Rock. It's hard not to be familiar with them. Plus, every face on Naruto Rock is Woodleaf's hero. Sakura Haruno covered her mouth in disbelief. Her eyes swept over the two faces, and she stared at Naruto in disbelief. You, first Naruto-sama and second Naruto-sama. Edo Tensei? Hashirama and Tobirama turned their heads and looked at Sakura Haruno, who was in shock. Hashirama licked the strawberry cone on his lips and asked, Huh? This little guy also knows me? Is he also a child of Woodleaf? Sakura Haruno hurriedly came over and saluted. Naruto briefly introduced the two sides. These two, yes, they are the two founders of Woodleaf. The first Naruto Hashirama, known as the god of shinobi, and the second Naruto Tobirama, who created countless ninjutsu. Among them, first Naruto is here to stay for a few days, and he will leave when the vitality of the body of the Edo Tensei is exhausted. Everyone just treat him warmly. Tobirama is a permanent resident, and everyone will be a family in the future, so if there's anything you don't understand about ninjutsu practice, you can discuss it with each other. Sakura Haruno was shocked by Naruto's words. Hashirama was a little shy, scratching the back of his head like a big boy, and said embarrassedly, I'm not that powerful. Tobirama frowned and looked at the girls and said, These people, are all people who assist you? Why are they all women? Huh. It sounds like. Second Naruto is a male chauvinist. Sakura Haruno felt strange and said, Assist? What assist? Naruto laughed and said, Nothing, ahahaha. These people are all my apprentices. Chapter 376. Apprentice. Tobirama looked at Naruto. Naruto explained, Well, apprentices in sealing, each of them played an important role in the construction of the spiritual network. The look of doubt on Tobirama's face dissipated, and was replaced by great appreciation. After all, in his opinion, the spiritual network is really magical. Then he asked, Oh, what about the people who are loyal to you? Loyal? How could there be? All the girls looked at Naruto. Fortunately, Naruto is now a projection of consciousness, otherwise, his face will definitely be as red as a monkey's butt. When Naruto didn't know how to answer, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. They are still on the way. Naruto thought of the matter of letting the Edo Tensei team to buy children from the underground exchange. Naruto originally intended to invest those people in the construction of the Snow Country, but now he will take their place as a last resort. As for unification of the world, maintenance of world peace, Naruto didn't think about it and he is not interested. Therefore, Naidame Hokage didn't want to mess around. Then, he can squeeze the second Naruto during this period, let the second Naruto teach him ninjutsu, and even let the second Naruto participate in the construction of the spiritual network. Naruto believes that with this ninjutsu manufacturing machine, his spiritual network may usher in a qualitative leap. This was a sure-win deal. Well, it's settled then. Quietly putting away the small abacus, Naruto changed the topic and said, well, since everyone already knows each other, let's get to the point. Naruto glanced around and suddenly found that Dabi was not there. He contacted Dabi through the spiritual network and said, come to the first floor. Dabi was on the 8th floor. After hearing Naruto's instructions, he jumped and glided down the circular gap in the mountain. Soon, the valiant Dabi appeared in front of everyone. Naruto didn't introduce anymore. Well, since everyone is here, then I will start talking about the next research project. Little Guni suddenly raised her hand. I know. Naruto was stunned. How could Little Guni know? He hasn't said it yet. He looked at Little Guni suspiciously. What do you know? Little Guni happily said. It's the research on armor, right? Guanai told me that we're already in the process of growing our living limbs. Ugh. Guni, this big mouth. Well, it's reasonable to say that it should be the research. But it's Orisu's is asking for trouble. That. Indeed it's research, but not now. Little Gunny pouted angrily when he realized that he had guessed wrongly. That living's body. What is the living body? If Senju Hashirama knew that he was still experimenting on humans, what would happen? Naruto quickly interrupted. Well, it's also a new technology. I'll introduce it to you later. Naruto muttered in his heart. Bye-bye in 3 months. I'll burn some paper money to tell you when you go back. As for Tobirama, it's still the same sentence. I'll fool him for as long as I can. Naruto hurriedly brought the topic back to the topic after he was done with first Hokage. What we're going to research next is called a satellite. Simply put, it's a high-quality surveillance camera. When the time comes, we will find a way to send it to the sky. Everyone stood together in a daze. To be honest, they didn't understand. Then Naruto's class started again. He talked about the rotation of the planet, the atmosphere, and the boundary of space. The boundary of space, that is, the boundary between the atmosphere and outer space. This world is very big, but the boundary of space isn't very far. In Naruto's memory, the boundary of the Earth's space was 118 kilometers. He didn't know the boundary of this planet, but it shouldn't be longer than the Earth's. And this distance can be extended by the perception barrier, as long as the spherical perception barrier is changed to a unidirectional one. So there's no pressure on the technology. Naruto's class continued. From the boundary of space, he talked about the relative static of physics. After speaking, everyone was shocked by Naruto's plan. You mean you want to launch something called a satellite, and then monitor the whole world? Sakura Haruno's beautiful eyes were wide open. This plan is the most shocking and crazy plan she has heard so far. Naruto replied. It's not monitoring, but it's convenient to collect information. If this plan is successfully completed, then the scanning of the world's map will not be completed by manpower. This will greatly save manpower and material resources. Secondly, I want to use this method to determine the whereabouts of Orochimaru. Every time Orochimaru returns to the base, he uses a space ninjutsu similar to reverse summoning. The location he leaves is also random. In addition, the card's positioning system can only record vague location information without an accurate map. All these reasons are difficult to find Orochimaru. But if there is a satellite, there will be accurate map information. As long as Orochimaru leaves the base, we can connect the ID card's positioning with the satellite and grasp the information of his movements after leaving the base. This time, the girls understood. Originally, Big Fatty also wanted to raise doubts. Although the perception barrier can be directed to a very long distance, the consumption of chakra is also huge, and it's impossible to open it all day. In this way, the significance of the satellite doesn't exist, but listening to Naruto's explanation, after determining the location of Orochimaru, they will use the satellite to locate him. In this way, there will be no problem. So they also nodded. Tobirama lacks too much homework. He can't understand what these people are talking about, but he can hear that Naruto is looking for Orochimaru. So he said, Orochimaru is our next target? Well, Tobirama regarded this as a world mission to conquer the world. Naruto replied, Orochimaru is a threat to us, so we have to find him first, and then kill him. There is one sentence that Naruto didn't say, that is, the Edo Tensei will absorb him. This time, it's Hashirama's turn to be interested. It's a big pity that Sandaime-sama didn't take him down. However, no one answered his words. Naruto turned to everyone and continued to arrange. The first-generation satellite will be built on the spiritual network and perception barrier, but this is not a finished satellite. After all, this consumes too much energy, and the effect is very low. This shortcoming will be left for the second-generation satellite to improve. The second-generation satellite will integrate electronic technology and ninjutsu. Well, we need to develop an electronic eye that can penetrate beyond 118 kilometers. This matter, let's leave it to the electronics manufacturers. Pay attention to the electronics manufacturers with stronger monitoring equipment. I believe that this technology, as long as there is demand and interest, they will break their heads to develop it. If it doesn't work, if necessary, we can use extreme means to kidnap them to the snow country. Naruto saw the first Naruto staring at him and changed the topic. Well, let's start the research. Hashirama looked at it for a long time and didn't understand it, so he went to watch a virtual reality movie. Just now, under Naruto's suggestion, he shared a copy of the practice experience of Mokuton and exchanged it for 500 points. 500 points were enough for him to finish watching 3 movies. When the menu was opened, Hashirama was stunned because 3 movies became 4. The extra one was called Aurora Borealis. At the same time, the 9th Lamas received a call from Haku. I have arrived at the North Pole. There are really colorful lights in the sky like you said. They are really beautiful. The 9th Lamas was stunned and suspiciously asked, You are looking for Naruto? Haku was also stunned. You are not Naruto. Chapter 377. Aurora Borealis was a video that Haku used the system's function to record what he saw and upload it. It was nighttime in the video, the sky was full of stars, and the ground was covered with ice and snow. The dazzling aurora was like a colorful ribbon, spreading out in the deep blue and silver brilliance, outlining an incomparably gorgeous dreamy picture. It was very vast, and it filled the entire field of vision at a glance. At the same time, an unknown song sung by Haku sounded in his ears. It was very pleasant, and it was a female voice with a touch of sadness, like a young girl's yearning. Well, at least Naruto heard it and thought it was a young girl's yearning. Hashirama and Tobirama, who didn't know, must have thought so too. The first Naruto had seen Aurora Borealis and listened to the emotional song. His eyes stared blankly at a corner, as if he was recalling the beautiful girl he met in his youth. What is the North Pole? What song is this? The first Naruto muttered to himself, but no one left him. Naruto was talking to Haku at this time. Haku established a spiritual link, found Naruto's account, and found 9 tails. Kyubi was quite enthusiastic and told him about White looking for him. Naruto established a spiritual link with Haku. He learned that Haku went to the North Pole and recorded what he saw into a video. Naruto watched it. At night in the North Pole, the brilliant aurora was very beautiful, and so was the song. Although Naruto talked about the aurora, this was the first time that Naruto saw the aurora with his own eyes. Haku said, The North Pole is very beautiful, if only Zabuza-sama could see it. Naruto was slightly stunned, but then he came back to his senses. He understood Haku's meaning. Resurrecting Zabuza was a simple matter for him. But the reward in exchange for labor was even better, right? If he didn't work hard and got it so easily, Naruto might not cherish it. Was this the truth? Bullshit. When did the coal boss care about the life and death of the miners? Well, of course, Naruto wasn't that cruel. Another reason was that more and more people were reincarnating recently. Although he did not care about killing, he still had to control it. At the very least, he had to buy some time. Naruto encouraged him. When you reach 3-star, you can revive Zabuza with your own hands. After encouraging his employees, the coal boss was about to leave. However, he suddenly had an idea. Orochimaru has now guessed that their base is in the snow country. Although they hadn't made any moves yet, that might not be the case in the future. Why not take advantage of this opportunity to build a base in the North Pole? Without the ice escape bloodline limit, not many people in this world could make it to the North Pole alive. For Naruto, who had the ice escape bloodline limit, that place was a natural stronghold. As soon as this thought popped up, Naruto couldn't help but grow in his heart. In addition, Naruto also wanted to go to the North Pole. We'll study it later. Let's go to the North Pole first. The girls who hadn't seen the video uploaded by were all stunned. The first to express his stance was Hashirama. I want to go. Take me with you. Naruto ignored him again. He explained to the others, because of the virtual reality movie, Orochimaru has already guessed that we have a base in the snow country. I didn't care at first. We have a certain geographical advantage in the snow country. It's not difficult to deal with foreign ninjas. But Haku has now arrived at the North Pole. The North Pole is many times colder than the snow country. Without the ice escape bloodline limit, ordinary people can't reach it. Well, I think we can build a base there. By the way, Haku uploaded a short video about the North Pole in the entertainment area. You can take a look. The girls were still in a daze. To be honest, they didn't want to leave the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. They dug out stone by stone here. But after watching Aurora Borealis, I want to go. Gunny's hand was held straight up like a flagpole, swaying back and forth. The order was not easy to distinguish because they raised their hands almost at the same time. It was obvious that women and girls didn't have the slightest resistance to that fairy tale-like beautiful place. As for the home that they were reluctant to leave, their attitude changed from, well, I'll come back to visit often. The girls agreed, and the next step was simple. Naruto reminded them. It's quite cold there. Use chakra to protect yourselves. Then he turned to Fatty and said, give Haku's identity card the authority to summon Gunny. Fatty accepted the order and started operating with the 5-star authority. Soon, Haku received a system notification. You have a 25 cubic meter system update file. Do you want to update it? Haku didn't know what to do. At this moment, the second system notification sounded. Resources downloaded successfully. Beginning update. Naruto then contacted Haku. I've added a summoning authority for you. Later, use this to summon the designated person. Haku was surprised. Summon? How do I do that? Summoning technique? Naruto explained. Well, it's a modified version of summoning technique. It's very simple. You just need to activate the array on the card. The system notification sounded in Haku's ears. System update complete. This update adds summoning authority. Haku took out the card. The patterns on the card were more complicated. Haku tapped on the summoning panel that appeared on the operation panel. On the summoning panel, there was only Gunny's image. Note: summoning requires a large amount of chakra. Those who do not have enough chakra would like to use this function. Please switch the chakra supply line to the spiritual network. Chakra supply line has been switched to the spiritual undead supply line. Summoning activated. Summoner, please choose the summoning location. Location confirmed. Beginning summoning. A circle of light appeared in front of Haku. At the same time, the points on his system account decreased rapidly. System notification. This summoning uses 20 cubic meters of chakra. Then there was a boom. A large amount of mist was released from the dense chakra in the circle of light. Then, the liquefied mist turned into small ice crystals. Gunny was summoned to the North Pole. Gunny's first reaction was to shiver. It's so cold. He immediately increased the thickness of Chakra's defense. Naruto's projection flashed with a bright light, and then flashed out. Gunny, activate the Sky's Eye camera. This was not the snowy mountain. Naruto's projection could not see anything except for Gunny's vision. After all, the perception barrier could not reach the stars in the sky, so he could not see anything. Gunny took out 3 Sky's Eye cameras. They were the little things developed by Fatty that had bamboo dragonflies attached to their eyes. The Sky's Eye cameras were successfully activated. The surrounding scenery was successfully captured. Then, through the virtual reality system, the 3-dimensional image appeared in Naruto's eyes. This should not be considered as seeing the North Pole with his own eyes. Naruto admired the beautiful scenery. He could not help but sigh in his heart. If only he and his main body could come here. It was easy to summon his main body, but it was difficult to summon his spirit. Currently, his spirit's range of activity was only between the little flying squirrel and the pufferfish. However, what surprised Naruto even more was that Haku was not alone. He was riding on the back of a big white bear. Is this a polar bear? Naruto pointed at the bear and asked, "Is that your pet?" Haku replied, "You can say so. After a fight with it, this guy has been following me." Looking at the delicate female body of Haku riding on the back of a polar bear, Naruto's mind spun. Is this the North Pole's version of Beauty and the Beast? Then he had a bold idea. Should he make a virtual reality movie with the North Pole as the backdrop? I should build a base, then research satellites, then research metal armor, and then film a movie when I have nothing to do. Naruto suddenly realized that there were many things he had to do. Chapter 378. The construction of the Arctic base was much simpler than that of the Great Snow Mountain base. Haku changed the shape of the ice according to Naruto's instructions, and built a 3-layer spherical ice sheet. The innermost ice sheet covered an area of 10 kilometers, and the outer circle was 1 kilometer apart. This structure was like the double-layered glass of a thermos bottle, so it could effectively isolate the temperature inside the ice sheet from the outside. It had the effect of insulating the ice sheet from the cold. In fact, Naruto originally planned to build a more magnificent ice sheet, but the conversion of chakra into ice by the spiritual network was much less efficient than the conversion of chakra by himself. This project was the limit of what Haku could complete. But it didn't matter. When Naruto's main body had time, he could expand it. The ice sheet with a convex lens structure had a strong light-gathering effect. It was fine at night, but if the sun came out, the inside would be roasted. Naruto asked Gini to use steel release to control the deformation of the steel, and added a layer of steel film in the middle. It was not completely sealed, but the top layer was sealed, and the middle was beehive-shaped, with a circle of light transmission. Where there was too much light transmission, a light-blocking steel film was added on the inner or outer layer. Generally, when there was enough sunlight, the diffuse reflection could meet the internal light needs. When the insulating layer was built, the next step was the living area inside. Little Gunny went on the stage again, and the all-metal room was quickly formed with the help of chakra and steel transported from the snow country. The structure of the living area was designed by Naruto, and there were a total of 36 rooms, distributed next to each other in a ring shape. The exits of the rooms were all inward, connected to the circular public area in the middle. The public area had living rooms, temporary laboratories, kitchens, and other public facilities. The main laboratory was excavated downwards, and so far, 4 floors were opened. Basement 1, the laboratory area for metal armor and other machinery. Basement 2, the biological laboratory. Basement 3, the biomass storage room for the Edo Tensei. Basement 4, the core room of the spiritual network. With the convenience of ninjutsu, the entire project was completed in 6 hours. I can't do it. Let me die for a while. Gini wrapped the last room with a membrane, and fell directly into Gini's arms. At the same time, Bai's body, which could last for another month, was on its last breath. I feel very weak right now. This body can't hold on for much longer. Bai's body had already started to fall off. Pieces of ash that looked like dandruff would fall off from time to time. Naruto comforted him. You've all contributed greatly. Each of you will be rewarded with 1,000 points. Little Guinea rolled her eyes. She was the one who didn't lack points. She quickly protested. I don't want this reward. I want something delicious. I want to eat Sister Xiao's pastries. Xiao's pastries? Not only did Gurney want to eat it, even Naruto wanted to eat it. She readily agreed and said, once I'm done here, I'll summon your sister Xia over to play for a few days. Bai was easier to talk to and did not make any requests. However, Naruto also gave her a reward. The Arctic base is very important in the long run. This time, you've completed an S-rank mission. Bai was stunned. Compared to 1,000 points, she wanted the mission score more. This was because there was a requirement for upgrading the identity card. An S-rank mission score meant that she was one step closer to being promoted to 3-star. Once she was promoted to 3-star, she could resurrect Zabuza. Bai was a little excited. As she was excited, the ash-like light spots on her body fell off faster. However, she didn't care. She bowed and said, thank you very much. Naruto acted like a coal boss. He nodded in satisfaction and said, you deserve it. Naruto notified Big Fatty of Bai's reward. Big Fatty gave Bai a reward with 5-star authority. A system notification sounded in Bai's ears. You've completed the S-rank mission of building the Arctic base. You're rewarded with 1,000 points and an S-rank evaluation. According to the accumulation of scores, you can split the S-rank evaluation into 3 A-rank evaluations. Then, you can split the A-rank evaluation into 50 B-rank evaluations to upgrade the 2-star identity card. Do you want to split the evaluation and upgrade? Bai chose to upgrade. Then the S-rank evaluation medal in front of Bai's eyes shattered into 3 pieces. In an instant, it became 3 A-rank medals. Then one of the A-rank medals shattered again. At this time, a system notification sounded in her ears. You have a 10 cubic meter upgrade package waiting to be downloaded. Do you want to download it? The notification said, this download is free. Bai chose yes. The system notification said, download complete. The upgrade package is beginning to be installed. During the installation process, please ensure that chakra is sufficient. Then, the card that Bai carried with him suddenly heated up. The runes on it seemed to come alive. They twisted and changed their shape, becoming more and more complicated. Bai was no stranger to this scene. A few hours ago, when he installed the summoning function, he also saw this scene in front of him. 3 seconds later, the runes on the card were fixed. The operation panel in front of Bai's eyes changed. Then, it was the beginner's tutorial for the 2-star identity card. The 2-star identity card had 2 more panels than the 1-star identity card. They were chat and world map. However, to Bai there was only one more world map. After all, the chat authority was unlocked by Naruto not long after Bai went to the Arctic. The world map was opened. The most detailed one was Snow Country. Then Bai saw that he was walking in a straight line straight to the Arctic. While Bai was familiarizing himself with the new identity card, Naruto received a message from Pharmacist's pocket. Boss, where are you guys? In the laboratory of the Great Snow Mountain, Pharmacist's pocket went all the way from the first floor to the top floor. Fortunately, he had used the Earth escape technique of the mirrorfish to go up directly. Otherwise, this trip down would have been enough to exhaust him. The result of his search was that there was no one. Naruto was stunned and replied, we just moved to the next floor and built a base in the Arctic. The Arctic? Where is it? Pharmacist's pocket obviously had not watched the video update in the entertainment section, nor did he check the world map. Pharmacist's pocket replied with a sad face, why didn't you tell me? I looked around the base for a long time just now. Naruto was puzzled. You're looking for Gorny and the rest? You can talk to them. Pharmacist's pocket's face darkened. He replied with resentment. Little Gorny lied to me. She said that you guys are on the top floor. Naruto blinked and could not help but laugh out loud. That girl. Why didn't you ask Big Gorny? Pharmacist's pocket's face darkened even more. He replied. Big Gorny told me that she was with Little Gorny. A Big Gorny lied too? No way, right? Wait, Big Gorny said that she was with Little Gorny. Naruto looked at Big Gorny. At this moment, Big Gorny was indeed with Little Gorny. Big Gorny did not throw flowers, but her answer was misunderstood. She did not do it on purpose, did she? Did Big Gorny learn bad things too? Naruto asked Pharmacist Pocket. How did you ask her? Pharmacist Pocket hugged himself and squatted in the corner. I asked, are you with Little Gorny? Naruto. Pfft. Ahem that. Why are you looking for them? Pharmacist Pocket replied. Their clones need to be compared with the original cells. I'm looking for them to extract the cells. Pharmacist Pocket became evil. But now, I think it's fine if we don't compare. Chapter 379. After the general construction of the Arctic base was completed, it was time to build the Arctic Spiritual Network server. The original Great Snow Mountain server continued to operate at the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, and the new Arctic server was connected to the original server. At this point, the original single database, Star Network, was upgraded to a dual database, a dual star network model. The advantage of this was that the network was more stable. For example, if the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was destroyed by force majeure, the server of the Arctic base could continue to support the operation of the entire network. This kind of double-star network model could continue to be promoted, forming a network topology structure. The network technology of banks was like this, and this model was also called disaster preparedness. It took a total of 3 days to build the Arctic Spiritual Network server. During this time, Deidara and the others finally rushed back to the rain country. Come, let's take a bath together. Deidara invited the little flying squirrel. Naruto subconsciously wanted to protest. After all, he had been bathing alone. He was alone in Woodleaf. Although his small broken house was simple, it was barely enough to take a bath. Later he moved to the store manager's house. Not to mention a bathroom, there was a swimming pool, but he was still alone. Thinking of this, Naruto suddenly remembered that when he was in the store manager's house, he didn't see Misharu and Misharu's swimwear in such a big swimming pool. Then, after leaving Woodleaf, in the snow country, he was the only man. Of course he was still himself. The body reincarnated from Edo Tensei didn't need to take a bath. Then he joined the mercenary guild. He was still a man. And then he took a bath in the hot spring. Before Naruto could say anything, Deidara had already picked up the little flying squirrel and walked into the bathroom together. Naruto suddenly remembered that he was now a little flying squirrel, a furry ball, and there seemed to be nothing to be shy about. Walking into the bathroom, the treatment of the Akatsuki was not bad. The bathroom was very complete, there was a shower, a bath, and everything. Naruto walked to the mirror and looked in the mirror. At this time he suddenly heard Deidara complaining. Why are you gathering at this time? Deidara had taken off his shirt, but he quickly put it back on. Then Naruto saw Deidara make a seal with one hand, and then his whole body became motionless. Naruto's gaze fell on the Akatsuki ring on Deidara's hand. Obviously, the Akatsuki was holding a meeting through the ring. This thing was very similar to the spiritual network he had created. In other words, it was a spiritual network. I just don't know if I can invade the Akatsuki's spiritual network and then intercept some information. But if you want to enter Akatsuki's spiritual network, you have to obtain the client of Akatsuki's spiritual network. It was the kind of ring that belonged to Akatsuki. Naruto remembered that Orochi seemed to have one. But it's not easy to make a deal. Orochimaru must have asked Naruto to exchange with his other hand. Sasuke. Naruto contacted Sasuke via the spiritual network. What are you doing? Sasuke replied coolly, cultivation. What's up? Naruto didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. Orochimaru has a ring from Akatsuki. Can you help me get it? Sasuke replied coolly. I've never seen a ring on Orochimaru's hand. Naruto explained he didn't wear it on his hand. Naruto suddenly thought of Kabuto. Since Kabuto had been with Orochimaru for the longest time, he might know. Naruto contacted Kabuto mentally. Do you know where Orochimaru put the ring he obtained after joining Akatsuki? Kabuto replied. You're talking about the ring with the word void written on it, right? When I was with Orochimaru, I put it in Orochimaru's third laboratory, but Orochimaru knows that I'm working for you. He should have transferred the original laboratory. Huh. Well, Naruto admitted that since he told Orochimaru about Kabuto's existence, he had a great advantage. But money couldn't buy I knew. He was also desperate. It could only be said that it was human nature to make mistakes. Those who didn't make mistakes were gods. His liver hurt. Naruto asked about the cultivation of Gunny's several limbs, and after confirming that the cultivation had been successfully started, he disconnected the connection. That ring has the word void engraved on it. Pay more attention. When the time comes, we can make a fake one. Sasuke didn't ask much, he just said and didn't talk much. Although Sasuke insisted on staying with Orochimaru, there were signs that he was still on his side. Naruto also asked about Orochimaru's bases, and Sasuke told Naruto a few, but those were not places where Orochimaru's main body often stayed. Sasuke also didn't know where the most important bases were. After hanging up with Sasuke, Naruto hesitated whether to mention the ring to Orochimaru or not. Mentioning it might not work. But as long as he mentioned it, Orochimaru would notice that he needed the ring, and at that time, the possibility of Sasuke helping him steal the ring would be even lower. So he couldn't mention it, or not in the short term, to give Sasuke some free time. Naruto came back to his senses, and Deidara's side was also over. Deidara stretched and complained. It's so annoying, but fortunately, it's not when I'm in the toilet, Naruto said casually. What instructions did your boss have? Deidara unbuttoned his clothes again. He said that he wants to explore a base of power in the near future. After Deidara took off his clothes one after another, his small body that wasn't very strong but had well-proportioned muscles was exposed. Naruto glanced at him subconsciously and came to a conclusion in his heart. Deidara's assets were not as good as his main body. Then Naruto thought of another thing. The little flying squirrel's body can be multiplied. I don't know if his main body can. If his main body can be multiplied, then a certain fifth limb can be multiplied. The slightly yellow light in the bathroom shone on the little flying squirrel's body, and the snow-white little flying squirrel turned yellow. But it would be difficult for his main body to be multiplied. After all, the little flying squirrel was gifted. As long as he resonated with Chakra's body, he could be multiplied. In theory, he hadn't learned it yet. How about, one day, he took out the Autumn Dao clan's multiplied transformation technique to observe. Cough cough. Naruto stopped in time when his thoughts were about to break through the sky. What organization? Is it powerful? Deidara turned on the nozzle and tested the water temperature. An organization called the Underground Exchange. With that said, Deidara took advantage of the moment when Naruto turned his head to suddenly turn the nozzle around and spray it at Naruto. Naruto and Deidara were very close, and they didn't sense any danger, so they were drenched. Deidara was stunned. Your hair is wet. Why haven't you become thinner? Are you a solid mouse? Naruto's little face was pitch black. Turning his head, chakra resonated with his body. Then his body rose to 2 meters, and his head almost reached the ceiling. He looked down at Deidara and said, "What's wrong with being solid? Do you have a problem? Besides, I'm a flying squirrel, not a mouse." Chapter 380. After the initial construction of the North Pole base, Naruto was relieved of one of his worries. Thus, everyone began to fully implement Naruto's whimsical satellite project. The research location was the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. Because the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute had the support of the Snow Country, it was more convenient to transport materials. As for the launch location, Naruto decided on the North Pole. Logically speaking, the North Pole was not a very good launch location. Because to synchronize the satellite with the planet, the satellite must be placed on the planet's equator. Thus, after launching into space, a lot of effort was needed to adjust the satellite's orbit. But so far, Naruto could only think of one way to launch the satellite. That was to let the 9 tails grow 5 or 6 tails, then break through the atmosphere. And to use the power of the 9 tails, he had to be wary of being discovered by the Akatsuki. Thus, the best place to use the power of the 9 tails without any scruples So far, the North Pole was the best place. Anyway, that was the plan for now. To reach this stage, he had to first create the satellite. Snow Country, Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, 3rd floor laboratory. Naruto's projection, Big Fatty, the three Goonies, Sakura Haruno and second Naruto were gathered together. Naruto was the commander of this plan. Big Fatty was the strongest assistant. The three Goonies and Sakura Haruno were the main executors of the plan. And second Naruto, while he was currently unable to participate in the execution of the plan, he was still a learner. After the plan began, to Naruto's surprise, Big Fatty had already contacted 3 electronics companies. 2 of them were from the Thunder Country, and 1 was from the Fire Country. The bosses of these 3 electronics companies also had a 1-star merchant identity card issued by the Great Snow Mountain. Boss, which of these 3 companies do you think is suitable? Naruto looked at the product data compiled by Big Fatty. The 3 electronics companies were all ninja equipment. For example, portable radios or small surveillance equipment. Their products were also somewhat interesting. They could be considered as auxiliary products. However, there was still no satellite camera. Let's talk to the 3 companies and see if they can join forces to research it. After all, there is strength in numbers. As he spoke, Naruto pulled the 3 of them into the chat system and set up a temporary discussion group. Big Fatty has already told you, right? I need a super long-range camera. The images of the 3 appeared in front of Naruto. 2 middle-aged fat men and a skinny old man. The 3 of them were stunned. May I ask who you are? Naruto's image was a ball of golden light in the other party's eyes. It was very flashy. I'm Big Fatty's boss. Then, the 3 of them were confused again. Then who is Big Fatty? Naruto turned to look at Big Fatty. Big Fatty cleared his throat and waved his hand. The image of a beautiful girl appeared in front of Naruto. Her aqua blue hair was tied up in a fishtail. That cold and aloof appearance. Why does it look so familiar? This is Kanon Chiba? That's not it either. Kanon Chiba was slightly flat-chested. But this image of Big Fatty was not flat-chested at all. The kind that was very fierce. Then a small waist, bridge arms and long legs. TSK. It would definitely satisfy all the needs and fantasies of men. Big Fatty was slightly shy. Well, this is the image when I was discussing with them. Naruto's eyelids twitched. He wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. However, he was already silently mourning for the people who had been deceived by Big Fatty. Naruto turned his head and continued to discuss with the 3 people. Simply put, I'm one of the creators of the spiritual network. Do you have any other questions? When the 3 of them heard this, they hurriedly lowered their heads and bowed. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. One of them said, "You're the Lord who can resurrect the dead?" Naruto turned his head to look. The one who spoke was the skinny old man, who was the oldest. He asked curiously, "You also came to Snow Country to watch the resurrection ceremony?" The old man became excited. "Not only did I watch it, I've already signed a contract. After I die, I'll have to ask the Lord to resurrect me." The rest of the conversation was simple. After coordinating with Naruto, the 3 families decided to work together to create the satellite camera that Naruto needed. The reward that Naruto gave them was a ticket to resurrection. However, although the satellite camera was agreed upon, Naruto believed that it would take at least a few years before it could be put into use. There was no way it would be able to make it in time for this launch. After ending the call, Naruto said to everyone, "Well, Big Fatty did a good job this time. Although it won't be used in the short term, it's still something to look forward to. Then let's officially start the plan. This time, the satellite will still use a one-way sensory barrier. What we need to use is a high-precision one-way sensory barrier. Then we'll leave behind an electronic camera interface. This way, the second-generation satellite can be directly upgraded from the first-generation satellite. Secondly, we'll add a summoning array. This way, we can directly use the reverse spirit communication technique next time." Little Gunny said enthusiastically. "The current spirit communication technique requires a life form as a spatial coordinate. This time, Big Brother Naruto, who do you want to use as a substitute? Is it him?" Little Gunny pointed at the second-generation Naruto. There was a reason why Little Gunny asked this question. Naruto had already left by in the North Pole to act as a spatial coordinate. However, leaving the second-generation Naruto in space? Wouldn't that be too much of a waste? The second-generation Naruto was not angry at being pointed at. He calmly thought for a moment and replied, "If you need me to do this, I have no objections. However, I think my brother is more suitable because he has more free time." Naruto. Launch the first-generation Naruto into space? This was interesting. However, Naruto already had someone else in mind. He stopped smiling and looked at Little Gunny. "I think it's better to launch you into space." Little Gunny opened his mouth wide and looked at Naruto with a pitiful expression. "I'm so obedient. Can you not do that?" Naruto shook his head with a smile. "I'll keep this a secret for now. You'll know when the satellite is launched." Everyone's eyes glanced at the second-generation Naruto from time to time. After all, compared to ordinary people, the Edo Tensei was more suitable for this position. The second-generation Naruto felt a little uncomfortable being stared at. He said vaguely, "If you want me to go, I'll go. However, I think my brother is more suitable." Naruto smiled slightly and did not reveal the answer. In Naruto's mind, the most suitable candidate to be launched into space was the Shiba Inu. The Shiba Inu was a mutation of the rock clone. It could control rocks, so it could disguise the appearance of the satellite as a meteorite. The Shiba Inu with the satellite, it was perfect. Naruto praised his own idea. At the same time, the Shiba Inu in the country of rain was still running happily in the mountains. It was indulging in the mountains and rivers, sometimes pouncing on butterflies, sometimes rolling in the grass. It had transformed into a real Shiba Inu and was having fun. I wonder how it would feel if it knew that it was scheduled to be launched into space. In the country of rain, it was still raining. Deidara received the mission a week later, so he was quite free during this period. At this time, Scorpion knocked on the door. Scorpion had short red hair and the appearance of a handsome teenager. The little flying squirrel's ears twitched, then it turned over and went back to sleep. The little flying squirrel's bed was newly bought and was the size of a normal person. Deidara originally wanted to install a running wheel, but Naruto firmly refused. Deidara went to open the door. "What's the matter?" Scorpion said. "I'm here to teach this little guy the sealing technique." With a bang, Deidara closed the door with a backhand. Naruto's consciousness was still in the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute, so the little flying squirrel was sleeping soundly. Deidara looked at the little flying squirrel sleeping soundly and breathed a sigh of relief. There was still a week before the bet, so he hoped that the little flying squirrel would fall asleep immediately. He did not want to acknowledge a rat as his big brother. If that happened, he would become the laughingstock of the team leader. Dang, dang, dang. Although the door was closed, Scorpion did not intend to give up. At this time, the little flying squirrel finally woke up. Chapter 381. The Land of Demons, a country full of mystery. It was rumored that the witches of this country could predict people's deaths. And they had never failed. Don't lose bet, Sama. Do you really think there's someone in this world who can predict death? In a very shaky and bumpy carriage, a girl with short hair, big round eyes, and a pig in her arms asked the person sitting opposite her. The person called Don't Lose Bet. Sama was a woman lazily leaning against a long-haired man. If Naruto was here, he would immediately recognize them. The people in the carriage were the fifth-generation Naruto, who was being eyed by many forces covetously, Tsunade-sama, her little assistant, Shizen, and her lover. Oh right, there was also the poor pig that was always bullied by Dobby Dolphin. On the official road to the Land of Demons, wisps of steam slowly rose from the cracks in the sand, distorting people's vision. Today's weather was surprisingly hot, but according to the solar system, winter should not be far away. The coachman was wearing a huge bamboo hat. Under the hat was a listless face. He looked at the scenery around him that was distorted by the heat and couldn't help but feel irritated. He couldn't help but complain about the name of this guest. Don't Lose Bet, Sama? What a strange name. He didn't know if it was because he really didn't lose, or because he was bound to lose every bet, so he gave it the opposite name. The discussion continued in the carriage. Tsunade yawned, and her eyes were watery with sleepiness. Predict death? What a terrible ability. It would be great if I could predict life and death. I'll just take that witch home, and hee. Predict life and death? Ordinary people wouldn't be able to understand these vague words. The people of the perverted generation might have thought of a certain bra, but the people in the carriage, including the pig, were all very clear. What they felt meant was dice. This kind of value in life was simply incurable. At the same time, in the land of rain, Sasori's small class started. The student was a little mouse the size of a teacup, a flying squirrel. The little flying squirrel had big eyes, a small round face, and a pair of big ears that were different from ordinary flying squirrels. One word to describe it was cute. Sunlight shone through the window, refracting away some of the strong light. The remaining light shone on the little flying squirrel's fluffy fur, making it look even cuter. However, although the hair looked fluffy, it was actually not very long. It was considered short hair. Deidara knew this best because he had confirmed it when he was bathing that it was a solid mouse. The little flying squirrel sat on the table with its short tail pressed under its butt. It would struggle from time to time. Today was one of the rare days where there was no rain in the rain country. Therefore, the little flying squirrel, or rather, Naruto, was very happy. As a result, he spent more time in the country of rain. Scorpion. Is there anything you don't know about the selection of array bases? Sasori was sitting in the shadow of the window, leaning against the wall. He wasn't wearing Akatsuki's Blood Cloud windbreaker, but rather a white high-collared cashmere shirt. He didn't look like a ninja, who killed without batting an eyelid. He looked more like a big brother next door. Naruto replied. You said it very well. I understand everything you said. At this time, Deidara, who was irritated on the side, couldn't help but complain. You're just pretending. If you understand, then use a seal. I'm curious about how you make hand seals with your 4 fingers. Then Deidara looked at the little flying squirrel's toes and said with a strange smile. There are 5 toes. Are you going to make hand seals with your feet? Naruto looked at Deidara with pity. What an ignorant mortal. Who told you that hand seals must be made with human hands? Besides, it's not impossible to make hand seals with your feet, such as a certain perverted Sannin. Naruto was too lazy to speak. Sasori hesitated and said, hand seals. It's really a problem. Ninja beast, this is a limitation in ninjutsu. As far as I know, there are only a few races that can use ninjutsu proficiently, such as Sandame Naruto of the Woodleaf Ninja Village in the Land of Fire, and Toad of Mount Mayaboku. Ape Demon King? Naruto had an impression of it. Wasn't the last mission in the underground trading house to find the Ape Demon King? He didn't know if the client had subdued the arrogant old monkey. As for Toad, he had also seen a few. Toad Tadashi, who was used by Jiraiya as a means of transportation, and Toad Gamuta, who would complain about Jiraiya as long as he was summoned. But your bet with Deidara is to learn Fuinjutsu, which doesn't affect anything. Sasori's knowledge of Fuinjutsu is not high. Curse seals can replace hand seals, which Naruto has already confirmed. But now he is a student. The little flying squirrel pretended to understand and nodded. Deidara couldn't help but complain. What's the point of learning something that can't be mastered? It's a waste of time and life. If you had the time to learn clay bomb with me, you might have learned it by now. Naruto ignored the worried Deidara and continued to learn from Sasori. Although Sasori's knowledge of Fuinjutsu is limited, there are some knowledge that Naruto doesn't know. For example, in the field of energy conversion, this is still a blank in the field of Woodleaf's Fuinjutsu. Naruto has a hunch that after learning, the chakra manufacturing system from the Snow Country will usher in an opportunity to upgrade. One is fusion, one is separation. What will it be like when the two are combined? One thing is certain, the vitality extracted from cells cannot be transmitted in the spiritual network. Therefore, the spiritual network is supplied by chakra. And because the spiritual force contained in chakra supplied by the Great Snow Mountain is artificial, although it has no independent will, It also affects the conversion rate of chakra's nature change. Simply put, there is a certain rejection reaction. But if you learn the separation technique of chakra's spiritual force and vitality, then Naruto can use the spiritual network as a transport, transmitting chakra to the client, and the client will decompose chakra. This pure vitality will be transmitted to the caster's body, and the caster will combine his spiritual force with it. In this way, the rejection reaction will be solved, and the conversion efficiency of chakra's nature change will be greatly enhanced. Another point is that pure vitality can also heal the body, replace food, and even delay aging. Of course, these are still theoretical. After Naruto learned about the core function of Sasori's body, he thought a lot. Senior Sasori, let's continue to learn. I think I understand it well today, and I can learn more. Sasori asked a few questions casually, and Naruto answered them easily. Then Sasori's small class continued. Deidara on the side was even more irritated. Although he didn't want to admit it, Deidara had vaguely felt that this little flying squirrel might really learn Fuinjutsu. What should I do then? Be spoiled by a mouse Tian? So desperate, Deidara couldn't help but complain. Why are other people's ninja beasts so obedient, but his ninja beast is like this? Chapter 382. Naruto had been very busy these few days. He was busy constructing the satellite, learning the core sealing technique of the scorpion, and draining the water. At this rate, Naruto was afraid that he might suffer from schizophrenia. Thus, after much consideration, he decided to resign from the red light district. When he resigned, Sis Yao, who had always looked at him with disdain, was actually reluctant to let him go. She even tried to persuade him to stay. "Io, you're doing well. Why are you leaving just like that? Why don't I arrange a night for you?" What a tempting sentence. However, Naruto believed that he was a clean and upright person. And even though his thoughts were often derailed from time to time, "It's fine. Thank you for taking care of me all this time." Naruto bowed slightly. Naruto didn't discriminate against such a special group of workers. Everyone had their own choices. Regardless of whether it was right or wrong, it was life. And life was sacred to him. After bowing, Naruto intended to turn around and leave. However, what made things awkward was Kakuzu, who he had been waiting for a long time, was walking toward him from the corner of the street. Mother****, if Kakuzu walked into the shop right now, Naruto swore that he would castrate him. Of all times, he chose to come right when he resigned. He must be sincere. He must be doing this on purpose. He must be a bully. Naruto stared at Kakuzu. Kakuzu walked over without looking at him. Sis Yao followed Naruto's line of sight, and her body suddenly trembled. She didn't greet this regular customer as she usually did. Instead, she was rooted to the spot as though a spell had been cast on her. Kakuzu walked over without a care in the world, brushed past Naruto, and then entered the shop. Naruto. Mother****, I'll castrate you before you die. Also, I hope you don't get it up today. Naruto cursed him viciously in his heart. Sis Yao muttered softly, "Why is this man here?" It seemed like Sis Yao didn't want to see Kakuzu. "I won't be seeing you off. Let me know the next time you come, and I'll arrange it for you." After saying that, Sis Yao turned around, intending to return to her room. How could Naruto leave at this time? He is the dignified child of the prophecy, the dignified god of the future shinobi world. No, the god of the future shinobi world. Why did he stay here for half a month? Wasn't it all for this son of a B****tch? If the person who waits for the rabbit is a fool, then the person who guarded the rabbit but let it go was the most foolish person. Naruto admitted that he was not an idiot. Wait. Sister Yao. Sis Yao turned around. Is there anything else? What was he going to say at this time? What nonsense was there to say at this time? Naruto felt extremely embarrassed. Naruto also recorded this embarrassing incident on Kakuzu's head. It was all because of this son of a bitch. If he had come a day earlier or a day later, this wouldn't have happened. That. No matter how intelligent Naruto was, he didn't know what to say. "I'll stay here for another day?" Wouldn't it be too inexplicable if he said that? Sis Yao looked at Naruto strangely. Just say what you want to say. There's no need to be polite with me. Say my ass. Naruto's heart was filled with sorrow. Say that I left my clothes inside? Say that I need to use the toilet? Say. Naruto's mind was already in a mess. The person who dared to launch the first man-made satellite in the shinobi world actually couldn't think of a countermeasure at this time. Suddenly, Sis Yao came to a realization. Oh, you brat. Sis Yao glanced at Naruto seductively, then walked over and raised her hand to pinch Naruto's face. Wait for me to make arrangements for you tonight. What do you mean wait for tonight? Naruto's off-the-charts mental power wasn't just for show. At this moment, he recalled the scene from a minute ago. At that time, Sis Yao said that she would stay for the night to make arrangements for him. Then he rejected. Then he didn't know what to say. He stuttered and was misunderstood by Sis Yao as wanting to stay but being embarrassed to say it. He finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. Naruto sighed in his heart. My sister is amazing. He didn't even know how to smooth things over. Yet Sis Yao actually helped him resolve it so easily. Admirable, admirable. With a reason, Naruto returned to the store with Sis Yao. However, this time his identity wasn't as a sewer, but as a customer. In Naruto's view, the customers who came here were also sewers. So, it seems like his identity hasn't changed at all. He's still the same him. He's just a firework with a different color. Walking into the store, Kakuzu was standing in the main hall, flipping through the roster to find his target today. It was worth mentioning that Kakuzu, who came to the red light district, wasn't wearing the Akatsuki's blood cloud cloak. Instead, he was wearing a simple men's kimono. It was loose, but his face was covered with a mask similar to Kakashi's. There was also no headscarf on his head. Instead, it was replaced with white tights. No, it was a mask. From the looks of it, he was a strange person, the kind that wasn't likable at all. This, and this. Kakuzu tapped on the roster 3 times. Go and arrange it. The receptionist didn't look like an old woman at all. Instead, she looked more like a soldier on the battlefield waiting to be inspected. She stood straight and replied in a formal manner. Yes, I'll prepare it for you. Then Kakuzu was taken away. Naruto could clearly feel that after Kakuzu was taken away, the tense atmosphere in the store suddenly relaxed. Who is that person? You all seem to be afraid of him. Naruto remembered that when Kisame and Uchiha Itachi of the Akatsuki came in their uniforms, these girls weren't even this afraid. Not only were they not afraid, Sis Yao even blocked Kisame from going to the toilet. In other words, this fear wasn't because of his identity as an Akatsuki member, but because of something else. After that person disappeared in front of her eyes, Sis Yao exhaled, and her huge breasts swayed with this breath. This person is a strange person. Every time he does it, he has to ask for it to be done in a pitch-black room, without any light. After he left, the girls all fainted in the room. All I could see was that there were traces of ropes tied around his body. Other than that, the girls refused to say anything. No light? He must be afraid that others would see his hideous appearance under his clothes. Naruto remembered that Kakuzu's body was pieced together, and it was extremely hideous. Furthermore, his mouth was a split monster. The traces of ropes tied around his body should be the black tentacles in his body? Thinking of this, Naruto suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. As expected, looks were justice. Don't ask so many questions. That fellow gives me a bad feeling. Don't cause any trouble for him. Find an empty room to rest. I'll send you some food later, and then I'll prepare a feast for you tonight. To be honest, Naruto suddenly felt that the current Sis Yao was much cuter than before. It was a completely different treatment from when he was a worker. Tonight's stay? Naruto felt his mouth dry up. The horn of justice sounded in his heart. Naruto muttered to himself. I'm staying for Kakuzu. For Kakuzu. But how should I approach Kakuzu now? Should I use spirit transformation to secretly follow him? Chapter 383. It was noon, and the sun was shining brightly. On the top floor of the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, A metal ball with a diameter of nearly 100 meters was placed there. It's finally done. I'm so tired. Little Gunny sat down on the ground and rolled his eyes. Beside the metal ball, there was a pile of charred remains. These were the results of Little Gunny's hard work. Where's Big Brother Naruto? I want a raise. Little Gunny opened the chat interface and wanted to ask Naruto for help. However, Naruto's avatar was gray. To be precise, it was the avatar of the little flying squirrel and the pufferfish. Naruto had cut off the spiritual connection. This was a rare first time. Huh? Why isn't Big Brother Naruto online? Little Gunny mumbled. The other girls opened the chat interface as well. Among them, Gunny was the first to react. He asked Big Fatty, Big Brother, will Naruto be okay? Big Fatty hesitated. He should be fine. Boss cut off the connection himself. Knowing that Naruto cut off the connection, Gunny began to think. It's suspicious that he cut off the connection in broad daylight. Could it be that Naruto is doing something bad? Could it be that Naruto was doing something bad? No, but he was looking for something bad. 3 women and 1 man. Naruto's spiritual body was attached to the wall as he quietly approached. After making sure that he was not discovered, a black rune slowly approached from the crack. It was too risky to directly climb onto Kakuzu's body, so Naruto thought of a compromise. The black rune ran toward the woman's body. Success? After the curse was successfully branded on the woman's body, Naruto waited on the side until Kakuzu touched the woman. The imprint was branded on Kakuzu's body along the joint of the two. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. Success or failure depended on this. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The clock in Naruto's mind was ticking. After more than 10 seconds, Kakuzu did not seem to notice anything. As for the curse, it faded and hid in the depths of the host's skin. This mission was perfect. Naruto quietly retreated. The mark left on Kakuzu was a mark used to locate him. However, it didn't work normally. Only when Kakuzu used chakra would he send a message back to Naruto. The more chakra Kakuzu used, the stronger the signal. Similarly, if he used too little chakra, Naruto wouldn't be able to capture the signal. After successfully leaving a curse mark on Kakuzu's body, this mission could be said to have been completed perfectly. It was time to leave. Naruto didn't want to stay here until night fell. He didn't want to. Naruto told himself again and again that he didn't want to. Then he planned to leave. But just as he was about to step out of the door, the noise next door became louder and louder. Next door was Kakuzu's room. TSK, this guy is having a lot of fun. Naruto suddenly decided to do something. Then he returned to the house and took out a scroll. He found a few medicinal herbs and started to concoct them. 1 minute later, the noise next door was still reverberating. Naruto finished concocting the medicine. He walked out of the house and poured the medicine through the crack in the door of Kakuzu's room. Then the medicine disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. This was a sign that the medicine was rapidly evaporating. Naruto held his breath and counted in his heart. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The noise from inside was still the same. Nobody frowned. 0, 5, 0, 25, 0, 125. The noise from inside suddenly stopped. Naruto's eyes narrowed into crescents as he smiled. Although this medicine wouldn't turn Kakuzu into a eunuch, it would still take a month or 2 for him to recover. It would take at least half a year for him to fully recover, and he would have to wait for all the substances in the medicine to be expelled from his body. For the sake of safety, Naruto didn't make the medicine so that it would fuse with the body as soon as it came into contact with the skin. That way, the effect would be that of an old nose. Naruto narrowed his eyes and was about to leave. Just then, the door opposite him suddenly opened. An acquaintance walked out. Seahorse. Pufferfish, you haven't left yet? Naruto glanced at the crack in the door from the corner of his eye. There was still a small amount of liquid that was still evaporating. Seahorse's idea. Naruto shook his head in his heart. I'll just treat it as a temporary abstinence. In the long run, it'll still be good for Seahorse. Who knows, he might even be able to live for another 2 years. Hilarious, Seahorse waved at Naruto. Brother, why aren't you saying anything? Naruto smiled and waved back. Goodbye, poor retard. I'll pray for you in my heart. Then he turned around and left. Honey, didn't you go get some water? Why are you still standing there? A woman's soft voice sounded from behind the door that Seahorse hadn't closed. It seemed she wasn't done yet, but from the moment Seahorse walked out, she was done. With that thought in mind, Naruto's face broke into a comical smile. He strode out of the restaurant. This time there was no more trouble. Naruto stretched lazily and hummed a tune that Pufferfish often hummed as he walked home. He was thinking about what he should cook today. At the same time, in a muddy house, Kakuzu looked down at his little brother with a serious expression. Today? Why is it so soon? He would probably never know the answer to this question in this lifetime. At the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, the girls were all staring at the chat module. The moment Naruto came online, a wave of messages bombarded him. Masterspeak, did you do something bad? Naruto was a little suspicious. When did Guru become a worm in his stomach? How did she know that he did something bad? No, that should be an extremely good thing. Little Guru. Naruto Oniai-san, Guru said that you've entered the adult world. Naruto almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Sakura Haruno added, you can't let Hinata down. Well, Naruto felt that it was necessary to explain. Otherwise, with these endless mouths, who knows what kind of rumors they would spread. Thus, Naruto told Guru about how he approached Kakuzu and left a locator mark on him. Guru was still very suspicious. Even so, you shouldn't have cut off the connection, right? I almost asked Big Senior Brother to use the bottom level link to find you. I was afraid that you would be in danger. The bottom level link was the backbone of the spiritual network. It was also a layer of the spiritual network, but only the highest level of authority could access it. Naruto replied, the other party is very powerful. I was afraid that if I was distracted or you guys would send me some funny messages and make me laugh. That would be bad. Guenai nodded. You've passed, I suppose. After a round of interrogation, the girls finally got to the main topic. Little Guru said, Big brother Naruto, I've already constructed the satellite skeleton. We can start setting up the runes now. Guru then sent a video of the construction site to Naruto. In the video, Little Guru displayed an adorable expression of exhaustion. Naruto knew that Little Guru was trying to take credit for this. He promised, don't worry, once the satellite is successfully launched, I'll summon your big sister Xia and make you some delicious food. Little Guru suddenly put on a sullen expression. If the satellite isn't launched or if the launch fails, then I won't be able to eat anything good. Naruto's lips twitched, and he suddenly had the urge to tear Little Guru's mouth apart. How could he say that the launch would fail at a time like this? Naruto replied, within a month. The launch will definitely be successful. Defei suddenly chimed in. Boss, there's a problem with the algorithm. I'm afraid a month is going to be tough. Naruto. What a slap to the face, Naruto said with a frightened face. Isn't the algorithm assigned to everyone? Who made the mistake? Defei glared at Naruto. It's yours, boss. Naruto. What a slap to the face. I didn't sleep well last night. Where did you make the mistake? Let me take a look. Chapter 384. Wahaha. Dedale was in a very good mood today. He laughed happily when he was in a good mood. Because today was the last day of the bet with his dumb pet. So far, because of two dumb short hands and insufficient fingers, the sealing technique had not been successfully released. So in his opinion, he would definitely win this bet. In the future, the dumb pet would have to call him Big Brother or Master? Little Master? Thinking of this, Dedale's mood was even brighter. It was like the moment when the dark clouds in the country of rain receded. The water vapor had not yet dispersed from the air. The golden sunlight shone down through the gaps in the dark clouds and illuminated a rainbow. It was beautiful. Of course, if the rainbow could be blown up, it would be a masterpiece. Dedale was very happy. Dedale smiled lewdly. The smile in his eyes narrowed into slits. His footsteps were light as he circled around his dumb pet in the room. Time is almost up. Unfortunately, It's too late to beg for mercy now. Who told you not to accept my peace negotiation yesterday, TSK? If there was a tail, it would definitely be in the sky now. But Naruto's gaze fell on Deidale's head. Deidara's soaring braid was like a small flag rising up and down. Is this considered a tail? If this is considered a tail, then Deidale's brain. Isn't it a big but? That. Can you stop circling around in front of me? Naruto felt that the current Deidale was like a fly. The buzzing was very annoying. Deidale laughed and said, "This is not the tone you use to talk to your big brother." The little flying squirrel lowered its head. The sun shone on its back, and its face looked a little dark. You haven't won yet. Isn't it too shameless to call yourself a big brother now? Deidale's eyelids twitched. The dumb pet actually said that he was shameless. As the master, Deidale was very upset. The dumb pet was a little lacking in training. Oh, you don't want to call me big brother? Then call me master and salute. Master? Salute? The little flying squirrel raised its head and looked at the smug Deidale. If you don't seek death, you won't die. Why is it that there are always people in this world who don't understand this? However, the title of master doesn't seem too bad either. Naruto looked at Deidale. Because of Big Eye's cuteness, in Deidale's perspective, this was the arrogant and silly pet begging for his forgiveness. However, Deidale had already made up his mind to train his pet well. Therefore, he had to pretend that he did not see it. Deidara raised his head. Naruto didn't understand why Deidale suddenly raised his head arrogantly. You want me to call you master if I lose? He asked in return. Deidale proudly replied. That's right, you also have to kneel on one knee. Deidale glanced at his dumb pet. He felt that the pleading look in his dumb pet's eyes became stronger. Kneeling on one knee can be discussed, but you must call me master. The corners of the little flying squirrel's mouth curled up. Then if you lose, you'll have to call me master, human pet. Deidale rolled his eyes and said contemptuously, The premise is that you can win? Naruto turned his head to Sasori, who had been watching the scene at the door for a long time. Senior Sasori, you have to testify. Don't let a human pet go back on his words. Sasori was wearing the Akatsuki's trench coat today. Half of his face was covered in the big collar of the Akatsuki's trench coat. He replied, I heard it, but you have to hurry up. The mission will start in half an hour. Deidale and Sasori's mission was to go to the underground exchange to accept the assassination mission, and then do something to the corpse to track the stronghold of the underground exchange. Sasori looked up at the clock and said in surprise, Time passed so fast. Then he immediately changed into the Akatsuki's clothes. At this time, Deidale suddenly thought of something. He looked at Naruto and said, By the way, you don't have a team uniform yet. I'll ask them to make a set for you when we go to the underground exchange. Akatsuki's team uniform? He was a little tempted. Once upon a time, he dreamed of changing the school uniform into the Akatsuki's uniform. Unfortunately, he was now a mouse. I don't need it, right? Wearing that thing, wouldn't it be troublesome to change my size again? Deidale replied, It's not troublesome. You can ask for special materials. As long as you provide some chakra, the clothes will change according to your body shape. It can be like this? That's right. Without this material, the Akatsuki clan would be naked. But, why didn't I see this product in the shop manager's ninja shop? Well, it should be because the demand is low. After all, only the Akatsuki clan is needed in the wood leaf. And the Akatsuki clan should have their own purchase, or they should directly provide the wood leaf. This thought flashed through Naruto's mind. Then he turned his attention back to the Akatsuki's clothes. Cool fire cloud trench coat, I'm looking forward to it. Naruto also looked at the time. There were still 5 hours left before the bet. Naruto intended to demonstrate the sealing technique in the last minute, so that Deidale could experience what it meant to have extreme joy turn to sorrow. Then let's go first. The little flying squirrel lifted its leg and kicked the scroll, causing it to roll and close again. Deidale put on the Akatsuki's clothes and held his bamboo hat. He asked curiously, You're giving up? You don't plan on learning for a bit longer? Naruto replied, Giving up is impossible. I've decided to go to school. Deidale laughed. In his opinion, his silly pet had already given up. He was just being stubborn. Everyone set off. There was no rain in the rain country today. This was very good. The autumn wind blew through the tubular building, bringing with it a hint of coolness that belonged to late autumn. Soon, perhaps tomorrow, it would be snowing in the sky. Naruto recalled that Hinata loved snow the most. Hinata was very happy when they went to the snow country. Then, Hinata should also like the North Pole. With this in mind, Naruto decided to take Hinata to the North Pole when he was free. Well, he could also take Zero and the others, as well as the president. Thinking of these women who had just lost weight, Naruto thought of those fat and round photos taken by Nine Tails. A smile appeared on his face. But how to explain his identity to these guys was a problem. However, as his strength continued to increase, Naruto didn't care whether Woodleaf knew he was still alive or not. When the time came, would he tell them that he was Nine Tails' human pillar force, who ran out of Woodleaf? They wouldn't discriminate against human pillar force, right? Naruto's mind was full of thoughts. An hour passed in a hurry. Walking out of the rain country's border was the fire country. Soon, they came to a trading point in the fire country. Naruto's heart was also excited because he was about to wear the Akatsuki's fire cloud cloak. Silly, why are you trembling? Naruto was taken aback and looked at Deidara, who was looking at him. Who are you calling silly? Deidara also reacted. For a moment he blurted out his thoughts. But since he said it, Deidara smiled and said, "The name I thought of for you, how is it? Is it very vivid?" Chapter 385. The entrance to the underground exchange was strange. Last time it was a winery, this time it was a slaughterhouse in a small town. We need a uniform. In the reception room of the underground exchange, Deidara made a request to the receptionist. Then a form was printed out from the printer. The form listed the style of the clothes in great detail, as well as the additional requirements. Naruto glanced at it. Most of the data was filled out and printed, recording the description of the original uniform style of the Akatsuki. Deidara filled in the additional requirements that could be expanded. Height, 3 measurements and so on. Deidara's pen paused slightly. He couldn't fill in this. Don't you have professionals? This time the uniform is not a person, but it. Deidara pointed at Naruto. Naruto's eyelids twitched. Not a person? Well, let's not talk about this first. His body is indeed not a human body. The service staff of the underground exchange bowed. Okay, please wait a moment, I will arrange it for you. It didn't take long or very short, for the person in charge of measuring the size came out. Can I communicate? The person in charge was a middle-aged man with a cold face who looked like a puppet. Naruto replied, yes. The other party nodded, picked up a pen and paper, and asked, then do you usually walk upright or lie down? Naruto replied, upright. Deidara added, occasionally I also walk on all fours. Naruto rolled his eyes at Deidara. The designer looked at Deidara. This is? Deidara said proudly. I am its master. The blue veins on the little white mouse's forehead jumped. Master? Interesting, I will let you be proud for a while, in 2 hours. Humph. Naruto laughed evilly in his heart. The designer turned to Naruto and asked, is your current state your normal state? Normal state refers to the state where you don't use chakra and ninjutsu. Naruto nodded. The designer brushed his pen and added a few strokes to his notes. The designer gestured at the little flying squirrel with his finger and wrote a few more strokes. Naruto guessed that it should be the size data. It's my pleasure to serve you. Please wait for an hour. Your clothes will be ready in an hour. After the designer left, Deidara turned to the previous receptionist and said, okay, now I'm here to receive our mission. Accepting a mission was not accepting a mission. Only the guildmaster or vice-guildmaster of the mercenary guild could accept the mission. As for the guild leader of Dawn's mercenary guild, there was no vice-president. According to Deidara, that guy was definitely suitable to be an errand boy. After the identity card was successfully scanned, the mission book was printed out. It was an assassination mission. The target was of the mercenary group. Mercenaries can hunt each other? It didn't seem to say that he couldn't hunt them. Then Naruto thought of a possibility. If that was the case, then the identity of the client was worth considering. Most likely, it was played by Ju as well. He just didn't know if the Clown Emperor's mercenary guild was targeted. Naruto contacted Nine Tails through the mental network. "Where are you now?" Nine Tails replied, Still in the Lightning Country. I'm giving them special physical training." Naruto didn't ask and directly ordered, "Go to the underground market today or tomorrow, and use your Vice Guild Master identity to check if there are any missions to hunt the Clown Emperor." Nine Tails replied, "How can I check? A guild can't check their own guild's bounty." There was such a thing? Naruto really didn't know. "Okay, then there's nothing for you to do." Nine Tails asked, "What, is someone targeting us?" Naruto briefly explained the situation of the Akatsuki and his guess. Nine Tails said indifferently, "Tisk, it's fine if they don't come. If they come, we'll kill as many as they come." Naruto said seriously, "If it's an ordinary mercenary, it doesn't matter, but if it's someone from the Akatsuki, you must inform me as soon as possible." Nine Tails replied impatiently, "Well, I know, I can barely use your body, and I can't exert much power. If I really encounter a strong enemy, I will naturally inform you." Naruto said seriously, "It's good that you know." After hanging up the call with Nine Tails, Naruto found Mo, the woman who led the 4 people of Odogekure to form the mercenary group. "How's the mission going?" Mo received Naruto's call and immediately replied, "We have successfully acquired 50 people, and they will be sent back to the Snow Country in the near future." 50 people? It's been a long time, and Naruto felt that the amount was a bit small. "So few? What's the trouble?" Mo replied, "The underground market refuses to trade untrained orphans. These are all bought or auctioned through the underground market. 20 survived the gladiator arena, and 30 girls were auctioned. Naruto has participated in the auction of the underground market." He felt bad and asked, "The 30 girls you said, are they?" Mo said weakly, "They are girls who only know how to serve people. Master, should I not buy them?" Naruto. Girls who only know how to serve people. This answer is quite obscure, but anyone would be able to understand it. Mo was afraid that Naruto would blame her, so she quickly added, "But you said that no matter if they have fighting talent or not, they have to. Even if a person doesn't have fighting talent, he or she will shine in other industries." What else can Naruto say? "It's okay, buy them all. Let's not talk about this for now. Mo, go to the underground market, and see if there is a mission to kill the Clown Guild." Mo was surprised. "Master, do you know this news too?" Naruto was stunned. Mo continued, "Thank you for your concern, Master. I have accepted the mission, and I will take revenge with my own hands." Damn. Mo seems to have misunderstood something. Fuck. That's right, Mo and the president have a grudge. K the Shiba Inu. I forgot about this in a moment of carelessness. But Naruto confirmed it again. "The mission you are talking about is to kill the Clown Guild?" Emohui said, "Yes." Naruto took a deep breath. What he was afraid of really happened. But why is the Akatsuki targeting the Clown Emperor? Naruto asked tentatively. There are a lot of such missions to kill mercenaries recently, right? Emohui said, "There are a lot more than last year, but they are all mercenaries who have had a lot of conflicts in recent years." Not even the underground market? If the people were all dead, who would complete the mission for them? Of course, this was not what Naruto was worried about. What he was worried about was the grudge between Mo and the president. That, about the mission to kill the Clown Emperor, you can put it aside for now. I am in urgent need of manpower. Wait until you have acquired 5,000 or 10,000 people. Then you can take revenge on them. This was the best solution Naruto could think of at the moment. One word, delay. Then Naruto hung up the call. The best solution was to leave. Perfect. Chapter 386. It took less than an hour. To be exact, it was 45 minutes and 32 seconds. Naruto's uniform was finally ready. It was the same style as the others. It was black with red clouds, and there was a circle of white lines around the clouds. The three colors of red, white, and black together showed a mysterious beauty. It didn't make people feel heavy or frivolous when they looked at it. Naruto took his own uniform. Before he put it on, he looked at it carefully. Very good, it wasn't the kind of pet dog. This made Naruto very satisfied. What kind of pet dog? It shouldn't be hard to make the connection if it ran on 4 legs. Naruto opened the red zipper of the coat and saw the red fabric inside. Then he held the sides of the coat with both hands, with the openings facing outwards. His claws were on the 2 inner cuffs, and then he swung them up counterclockwise. The windbreaker was rotated by Naruto. When the windbreaker was turned to the side, his left and right hands alternated, and then back again. His left claw reached into the sleeve, followed by his right claw, and he put on the coat in a second. That was called imposing. That was called handsome. At this moment, the uniform made Naruto feel like he was wearing a yellow robe. That was called awesome. After putting on the coat, Naruto raised his claws and straightened the 2 big collars. Well, if there was a pair of sunglasses, he would have the demeanor of a big brother. As for the zipper, Naruto adjusted it. The zipper style of the coat was a double-ended zipper. It was the kind that could be pulled down from the top and pulled up from the bottom. Naruto liked it very much. It was a windbreaker, and what he wanted was a kind of demeanor. Naruto pulled the top zipper to his chest and the bottom zipper to his waist. Well, it was similar to the waist, according to the approximate position of the human body. The wind attribute chakra turned into a breeze, and the coat moved without wind. Naruto raised his head, his face calm and collected. How do I feel wearing this? Dedale's mouth was half open as if he had been immobilized. When Naruto questioned him, he slowly recovered and closed his mouth to prevent the saliva from flowing out. Can you be any more flirtatious? The wind on Naruto's body grew stronger. Then Naruto was lifted up by the wind. Dedale took a deep breath and sighed. You're really coquettish. I admire you. But why don't you become bigger first? Let's see how you've completed the additional conditions. At this time, the fashion designer who had not left recovered from Naruto's flirtatious behavior and said, We need to inject some chakra into the clothes. Naruto did as he was told and infused chakra into the clothes. Then the clothes actually shrank a little. No, to be precise, it was slightly adjusted and became more fitting. Then chakra resonated with the cells. At first, Naruto carefully changed from the size of 1 teacup to the size of 2 teacups. After confirming that the clothes also became bigger, Naruto was relieved and continued to grow. In the blink of an eye, he rose to 2 meters. But because of the rapid increase in weight, the wind that lifted his body was obviously not enough. So Naruto fell directly from midair, and almost fell on his butt. This made Dedale laugh out loud. Naruto's body continued to rise. When he reached 3 meters, he lowered his head and looked down at Dedale with a dark face. What are you laughing at? Dedale waved his hand repeatedly. I'm not laughing, puffed. Naruto's eyelids twitched. He glanced at the clock from the corner of his eye. There were still 2.5 hours left. Laugh. The happier you laugh now, the more miserable you will cry later. Humph. The 3-meter-tall mouse turned to look at the designer of the clothes and asked, What is the limit of this clothes? Can it keep getting bigger with me? The designer obviously had a draft in his mind and replied fluently, The limit is not certain at present, but it can be guaranteed to be within 100 times. 100 times? The height of the teacup was 15 centimeters. 100 times plus 2 zeros, that was 1,500 centimeters. 15 meters? Naruto frowned. At present, his highest record was 10 meters when he lost control. The limit hadn't been tested yet, because he had to hide some of his strength. Although his performance was already monstrous enough, the Akatsuki was originally a gathering place for monsters. So at present it was still very ordinary. Naruto muttered to himself, 15 meters should be barely enough. Naruto lowered his head and looked at the clothes again. There were a total of 4 clouds on the clothes of the Akatsuki, 1 on the chest, 1 on the back. The other 2 were down on the left and right sides of the clothes. Naruto liked it very much. But he always felt that something was missing. Am I still missing some equipment? Naruto asked. Deidara looked at the big and round rat beside him. The clothes behind the big mouse's buttocks were obviously different from the rest of the Akatsuki. The back of the Akatsuki was connected, and there was a gap behind the big mouse's buttocks. It was like a tuxedo, and the short tail was just exposed. This was a very considerate design. What's missing? Oh, that's right. Missing a forehead protector. But you didn't join other villages. How about you and I both use a Wagakure's forehead protector? Forehead protector? Although it was also missing, Naruto didn't think of that, but the hat? Besides, who said he didn't have a forehead protector? Woodleaf's forehead protector is also very handsome. But I won't say. Well, Woodleaf's forehead protector is more handsome than Woodleaf's. Naruto added another sentence in his heart. Deidara said to himself, well, it's decided. Then he turned to the staff and said, make me a small forehead protector. The same as mine, and then put it on. But Naruto refused. I don't want it. I'm not talking about a forehead protector, but a hat. Naruto pointed to the top of his head. Deidara suddenly realized, a hat. But the hat wasn't made from here, it was made by Konan because of the rain. Tion, it was raining. Naruto. Deidara turned his head and said, when this mission is completed, I'll help you get one. Naruto emphasized, it can also be big or small. Deidara said affirmatively, well, I know. Then he said with some uncertainty, that forehead protector. Naruto's attitude was firm, no. At this time Sasori, who had been silent on the side, finally raised his head and said, if there's nothing else, let's go and start the mission. Then they finally left the underground trading house. Along the way, although Naruto refused to wear the same forehead protector as Deidara, Deidara was still very happy. Deidara was very naughty when he was happy. From time to time, he looked at Naruto, who chose to ride on Sasori because he disliked Deidara and said, too dumb, although I know you don't want me to be overtired, you can still act spoiled on master. Naruto began to be more silent. Until the time was almost up. Rolling's face suddenly smiled and two good-looking dimples appeared. Big Dumb, I suddenly want to perform a magic trick for you. Naruto smiled very cheekily. Sasori next to him thought of a possibility, and then looked at the time. At this time Deidara still didn't know what was going to happen and accused. Although I call you too dumb, you can't call me Big Dumb, but, magic, you can still perform it, Chapter 387. Courting death is fun for a while, but in the blink of an eye, it's a crematorium. This is probably Deidara's state at this time. 30 seconds ago, he was still happily waiting to see his multi-talented idiot perform for him. 30 seconds later, he became a big idiot. Big idiot, do you understand? If you don't understand, Master will show you a few more seals. The perception enchantment's curse seals crisscrossed on Naruto's body. That's a formation that will only appear when the seal is successfully released. And it's an advanced seal that involves the enchantment domain. Of course, it's also the lowest level of the enchantment domain. This is impossible. Deidara's eyes widened, and the electronic eye under his bangs leaked out, intending to confirm the situation on Naruto's body again. Naruto's face, or to be precise, the little flying squirrel's face. On the crisscrossing black rune lines. The rune lines formed a formation, and Chakra's aura could be felt on it. It's true. But how can Deidara believe it? This must not be done by you. Then he turned to look at Sasori. It's Sasori, right? It must be Sasori who helped you in secret. Sasori looked at Deidara with an expression of looking at an idiot and clarified. I didn't do anything. Deidara was still stubborn. Impossible. You must want to see me make a fool of myself. So you made this little move. Deidara wants to renege on the debt? How can Naruto let him do as he wishes? He has been angry for a day today, waiting for this moment to explode. So he jumped down from Sasori. Then I'll stay away from Sasori, okay? So no one will help me, right? Deidara was a little guilty and didn't answer. Naruto jumped down from Sasori's shoulder and removed the seal. I'm going to recast the technique, you have to watch carefully. Naruto didn't say anything. Deidara would watch very carefully. This is a matter of reputation. Naruto reformed the seal on his hand. Because he was missing a finger, Naruto's seal looked somewhat different from Ninja. But surprisingly, the seal was successful. Scorpion was also watching this scene very seriously. From the fluctuations of the perception barrier, as well as the structure of the runes, he could see that this was only the most basic perception barrier. Based on the level of the barrier, there wasn't anything special about it, but the technique used to cast the spell was clearly different from what was recorded. That was quite surprising. Sasori thought of Uchiha Itachi, who can make hand seals with one hand. Could it be that this little mouse was on the same level as that person? Even Scorpion himself felt that this thought was somewhat absurd. Naruto looked at the speechless Deidara with a smile. Human pet, you should call me master now, right? Deidara's face turned red. Don't call me human pet. Otherwise I'll really get angry. Naruto looked at Scorpion. Senior Scorpion, you are the judge. How can someone change their mind in front of you? A rare smile appeared on Scorpion's face. No one can change his mind in front of me unless he can defeat me. As he spoke, he looked at Deidara with a smile. Deidara's eyes lit up, and he said with surprise, "So as long as I defeat you, it's okay? To be honest, I've been wanting to learn from you for a long time." Are Scorpion and Deidara going to fight? It's impossible for Naruto to mediate the fight. He's the perfect inheritor of the gene of not being afraid of things. With a sarcastic tone, he added fuel to the fire. I think you should just admit it. You can't be Scorpion's opponent. Deidara really liked this and he shouted, "My art can't lose to anyone." As he spoke, he put his hand into his pocket containing clay. Scorpion's hand shook, and Chakra's string pulled out a scroll. The scroll was unsealed, and with a bang, the third Kazekage appeared in Scorpion's hand. Directly using the third Kazekage? It looks like he's going to use a big move. Naruto's eyes widened, waiting for the show to start. However, what was even more impressive was that Scorpion actually raised his hand to pull the zipper, and then a long lock stretched out of his clothes and nailed to the ground, lifting him up. The trench coat fluttered, and Scorpion's puppet body was revealed. Then he touched his chest again. Is Scorpion going to go all out? Naruto remembered that the position on his chest can radiate hundreds of chakras strings, which can be used to perform the red secret technique, 100 machine drill. Looking at Deidara. Huh? Why is the style a bit wrong? Deidara's face was black, and then he painfully covered his stomach? Rumble. Deidara's stomach made a sound, and then Deidara hugged his body and bowed like a prawn. Scorpion's hand that was about to twitch the scroll stopped, and he said with surprise, I haven't made a move yet. You shouldn't be scared like this, right? If that's the case, I think I should change partners. Deidara ignored Scorpion, raised his hand, untied his pocket containing clay, and poured out all the clay inside. Then he grabbed a handful and sniffed it on his nose. He roared. Who did it? Who put laxatives in my clay? Naruto quietly turned around, and then quietly tiptoed, ready to slip away. This scene was just seen by Deidara, who was roaring. Idiot! You did it? Naruto's body stiffened, and then he retorted. Idiot, who are you calling? Deidara roared. Idiot is calling you. Naruto. Scorpion helplessly shook his head, and the little fighting spirit that had just risen was destroyed by the funny scene in front of him. These two buffoons can always do something that makes people not know whether to laugh or cry. The chain that stretched out from his abdomen retracted back into his stomach like a long snake. Scorpion fell from midair, then picked up his clothes, shook off the dust on them, and silently put them on. Deidara hadn't realized Naruto's language trap, and he angrily said, Why did you put laxatives in my clay? Naruto replied, I'm curious. How did you know I put laxatives in it by smelling it? Deidara said matter-of-factly, A rotten smell. What is it if not laxatives? Rotten smell? Well, the stinky bamboo does have a bit of rotten smell. Because he didn't intend to kill Deidara, Naruto didn't put much effort into making it. Deidara asked, Don't change the subject, woo. Halfway through his words, Deidara suddenly turned back into a prawn, and then ran into the forest. I'll get even with you when I come back. Naruto reminded. Go downwind. Deidara turned around and glared at Naruto again, but he still chose to go downwind. 7 or 8 minutes later, the weak Deidara dragged his tired body back and said weakly, Say, why did you drug me? Naruto was embarrassed, and then smiled shyly. I just wanted to try. If the mouth on your hand is the same as the one on your hand. Then he added, I'm just curious. Scorpion took back the Kazekage and looked at the interesting pair in front of him with a smile. He suddenly found that compared to fighting, there seemed to be other interesting things in this world. For example, the pair in front of him. Then he heard an ouch sound, and Deidara turned and went into the forest again. Chapter 388. The Mercenary Guild's hunting mission was not difficult for the Akatsuki, which was full of stars. For a month, Dedale's team received missions, killed the target, and then transferred to another country to turn in the mission. The purpose of transferring to another country to turn in the mission was to explore the transportation beam of the underground trading house. At the same time, it was also to find more strongholds. Ju's avatar also cooperated with this mission. Dedale's team was responsible for hunting, and Ju's avatar was responsible for tracking. The whole plan was orderly. At the same time, the satellite project of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was finally completed. The distance of the one-way enchantment reached 80,000 kilometers with everyone's efforts, which was 6378, 2 kilometers from the Earth's equator. It was enough. However, the practical value was still very low, and it could only track people with identity cards. And the amount of chakra consumed was also very terrifying. The energy reserve of the Great Snow Mountain was only enough to activate it for 10 minutes. It was a secret weapon that only tailed beasts could drive. After the satellite was completed, the next step was to arrange for the launch. In this regard, Naruto's idea was to accept the next month's transportation mission in the Rain Country. It would be a bit difficult to wait for a month, but fortunately, Naruto now had too many things to do. Research and development of armor? No, Naruto planned to open a mercenary academy. On this day, the outside world was sunny, and the Rain Country was rainy. Seahorse, who had nothing to do, leaned against the window, as if enjoying the drizzle outside the window. But in fact, because Naruto's soul was not there, it was in a standby state. At the same time, the little flying squirrel was also in standby mode. It was sleeping soundly in Dedale's clay bag. At the end of the bet, Dedale defended himself against Naruto's crime of drugging him. In the end, he was exempted from the title of human pet, and gloriously became Naruto's little brother. From that day on, whenever Dedale wanted to talk to Naruto, he had to say the word Big Brother in front of every sentence. Therefore, Dedale's biggest wish now was to let the little guy sleep for a long time. It would be best if he could sleep for a long time. Rumble, the little flying squirrel's stomach growled. Then it quickly opened its eyes and woke up. I'm hungry. Naruto's hand reached deep into the bag of clay and shouted. Then Dedale immediately took out a pastry from his backpack, opened the package, and handed it to the little paw that stretched out from the clay package. Big brother, here's your meal. Naruto hugged the egg-sized Harley cake with a paper tube in his arms, leaned against his bag, and began to eat it. After eating, Naruto stood up and was about to throw the oiled paper out. At this time, Deidara said very politely, Big brother, you can continue to sleep. I'll help you throw away the trash. As he spoke, he snatched the oil paper from Naruto's hand. The little flying squirrel yawned. Well, I'll go back to sleep then. Seeing that Naruto did not come out, Dedale finally breathed a sigh of relief. After a few minutes, there was an even snoring sound coming from the clay bag. Go to sleep. It's best if you die in there. Dedale's little face was so dark that it almost collapsed. At this time, Scorpion said hesitantly, for the sake of health, we should let it come out more to get some sun. Hearing this, Dedale glared at him. You don't have to call him Big Brother. It's easy for you to say that. Well, Scorpion laughed. I think you're already very good at it. Chakra on Dedale's body became restless, and its eyes looked fierce. Scorpion shut up and sped up, but his face was still smiling. 5,000 kilometers away, in a farmhouse in the Fire Country, 50 children were standing in 5 neat rows in a row of 10. In front of them, Ink, who was covered in a black cloak, triggered her identity card, and then a 2-meter diameter aperture appeared around her body. Ink adjusted the amount of chakra's delivery, and the aperture expanded by 3 times. Everyone stand in the aperture. Those who don't stand in the aperture, or those whose body is exposed outside the aperture, will die. The 50 children were 11 or 12 years old, and the older ones were 17 or 18 years old. Hearing Ink's instructions, they stood in the aperture obediently. The teleportation array was activated, and the aperture rose, illuminating everyone in it. The next moment, a white light flashed. Boom! The mist rose, and everyone disappeared from the house. In less than 10 seconds, Ink teleported back. She walked out of the door. Outside the farmhouse, the 4 people of Otogekyure who were reincarnated by Edo Tensei looked at each other. Zhirangfang said, "It seems that the mission is completed." Soon a system prompt came in their ears. Mission progress updated. 50 people have been handed over. System. Points reward has been received. Please check it yourself. Shujin stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. This habit seems to be learned from Orochimaru. He whispered, "Then let's withdraw. By the way, what about those people in the dark? I really want to kill them." Ink said indifferently, "It's the order from above. If the other party doesn't do anything, don't worry about them." Toyo didn't look at Ink and said sarcastically, above, aren't you tired of talking about it all day? But if it weren't for the above making you the captain." "Humph," Zhirangfang said. "Toyo, don't talk too much." Toyo turned his head and shouted at Zhirangfang, "It's none of your business. Fat pig." Devil Child Maru frowned. "You've died once, can't you restrain yourself?" Everyone was silent. Ink turned and took the lead to leave, followed by the others. Although Toyo's face was still unhappy, he didn't say anything more. In the dark, or in the eaves, or in the shadows of trees, several people's figures emerged. One of them pointed to the house, and 2 people went to investigate. The house is empty. There are no hidden compartments. 50 people disappeared in front of their eyes. Although they had witnessed it several times, they still felt incredible. It seems that they really have the space technology that Sama needs. The person who issued the order frowned and looked in the direction of the group of people leaving. He hesitated and said, "Withdraw and send the information back." Snowy Mountain under Songshua Town. This is a huge space opened up by ninjutsu. Among them, the most conspicuous thing is a huge stone pillar every 5 meters. The 50 children who were teleported were silent, nervously staring at the masked ninja in front of them. The women they bought were told to listen to the words of the person in front of them. The person was also silent, silently staring at them. After a long time he finally said, 20 boys, 30 girls. This time, the ratio is finally a little more like it. This person had short, snow-white hair like a hedgehog's head. He stood there like a straight pine tree. Finally, we have gathered 500 people, so the course can start. Welcome to the Mercenary Academy. I am your instructor, Toyo. It needs to be emphasized that this Mercenary Academy has nothing to do with the underground exchange, you know. Chapter 389. What did Naruto hate the most in his previous life? The school. The evil school had destroyed all of his youth, but today, he had become the headmaster, the principal of the Mercenary Academy. And after Tobirama explained things clearly, it was his turn to speak on stage. He remembered that when he was in school, his favorite thing to do was to curse the head of the dean to lose a few more hairs. Then his future students won't also curse his hair? Naruto was suddenly worried. Snow Country, under Songshua Town. Among the 50 orphans, there was a small girl who was quietly hiding behind the person in front of her. She was carefully looking around. Her eyes were a little erratic, and her small fists were clenched tighter than the others. Tobirama's eyes swept across everyone's face. The white tiger mask looked a little scary. Mercenary Academy in fact doesn't have much to do with mercenaries. As for why it's called this name, You all think that the person who named it has a brain injury. Tobarama said a little self-deprecating joke to ease the atmosphere. But no one laughed, everyone's small faces were tight. Even the good-looking girls looked scared. They didn't even dare to look directly at him. Tobarama was a little puzzled. Am I so terrible? If you want me to take off the mask, it should be more intimate. Tobarama complained in his heart, and then went straight to the topic. This school is divided into 2 campuses, one for daily life, and the other for combat. Which one you choose is your freedom, but there is one thing. Only the first course is free. If you want to learn other courses later, you have to exchange credits. I emphasize that credits are very important here. You can temporarily understand it as money, but soon you will find that it is much more important than money. Well, you know so much now. After you have your respective student cards, there will be more detailed explanations. Tobarama glanced at the faces of the group of children, curled his lips. Your courage is too small, you have to train. Then he thought for a while and promised himself. If you want to do something big, how can you do it if you don't have the guts? Don't worry, leave this matter to me. I will apply for a free class that specializes in guts. The people below didn't answer him. Tobarama turned back and said, take them to wash first. Hearing that, the eyebrows of the girls below suddenly relaxed, and the charm in their eyes floated. The whole person suddenly became lively. Wash, in a while they will serve people, right? They are good at this. However, not all of the girls relaxed. Some of them had cold expressions on their faces, some had disgust in their eyes, and some even lowered their heads in silence. Tobarama issued an order, and then a man and a woman came out. The man said, I am your assistant, codename Snow Wolf. You can call me assistant. Now all the boys follow me. After the man left, the girl said, I am Snow Butterfly. I am responsible for the girl's daily life. If you have any problems in the future, you can find me directly. Let me tell you secretly, your good days are coming. Well, the first sentence was okay, but the second sentence caused a lot of misunderstandings. However, it also made some of the girls more courageous. There were even a few girls who looked 17 or 18 years old, who threw a wink at Tobarama before leaving. At that moment, Tobarama only felt as if there was a sharp edge on his back. His whole body stiffened. Until all the girls left his sight, Tobarama breathed a sigh of relief. How is it? How many spies do you feel this time? Naruto's image suddenly appeared beside Tobarama, and Tobarama was shocked. He quickly straightened up and replied with some panic. That's hard to say. A few of them have erratic eyes. It can be said that they are nervous, but there may be a problem. Naruto nodded, full of worry. The memory scanning technology is not mature. If the host is too resistant, it will cause some mental damage. Tobarama comforted. Well, there is no way. Now that we have just started, we can't let the outside fly in. How many spies will there be? The 50 students may not know that when they came here, all their movements were recorded by the perception enchantment. Then a special person in charge will monitor and screen, including the women's bathroom. Of course, it was a girl who was in charge of monitoring there. Naruto looked at the departing figures of the preparatory students and curiously looked at Tobarama. You look a little nervous. Tobarama pretended to be relaxed. How can I be nervous? I don't know how many times I have led the team to the battlefield. This small battle is not worth mentioning at all. Naruto's voice dragged. Oh, is that so? Then Naruto's image floated away. He said in his heart, I'm not nervous. Not nervous. In the men's bathhouse, the heat rose, there was no bathtub, and the uniform sprinklers were distributed in several rows. Snow Wolf patted the trash can and said, Take off your clothes directly here. After the bath, you will be given a uniform. School uniform? What is that? The boys didn't know, but they were very cooperative and took off their clothes and threw them into the trash can. For a time, the crisscrossing wounds on the small bodies were exposed. There were knife wounds, and there were sword wounds. Knife wounds slashed, sword wounds stabbed. Of course, the knife may also stab, the sword may also cut. But in the past few days, Snow Wolf had seen a lot of these wounds, talked a lot, and heard a lot. He could already see what kind of story these children had from the shape of the wounds. Don't be shy, The wound is a man's medal. Snow Wolf encouraged one of the boys who was holding his clothes to cover his body. The boy hesitantly picked up the clothes, and then threw them into the trash can under Snow Wolf's encouraging gaze. The moment the clothes left the body, Snow Wolf was shocked. It was a cross-shaped wound. It looked like the whole person was going to be cut into 4 pieces. How did he survive? Snow Wolf had killed people and cut off people's heads, but even so, the wound still made him feel shocked. What's your name? The boy opened his mouth, revealing a small part of his tongue. Without his tongue, he was a mute. Snow Wolf's heart tightened again. Snow Wolf smiled and said, "Don't you have a name?" The boy pointed to the tattoo on his shoulder. There was a number there, 144. This tattoo symbolized the number of victories he had won when he left the arena. Snow Wolf had already communicated with many preparatory students, so he naturally understood the meaning. The number 4 is unlucky. I will seriously think of a name for you. The story of the male bathroom was just an interlude. After everyone took a shower, everyone received a set of clothes that belonged to them. Sky blue, very loose. The principal said that because he doesn't know everyone's height and weight, he will deal with it first. The school uniform will be remade in the future. But I feel that this set of clothes is not bad. By the way, there is a student card in your left pocket. Now drip blood on it to bind. Then, you will know what kind of place this is and what is waiting for you. After that, there will be an entrance ceremony. The principal will give a speech. Chapter 390. A drop of blood fell on the identity card. A series of electronic sounds rang in the ears of the preparatory students. System notification. Student card binding successful. System notification. Acquired primary spirit link authority. The voice sounded in their consciousness, and its sudden appearance startled many of them. At the same time, the virtual panel activated and covered their vision. System notification. Navigation sprite data module activating 10%, 50%, 100%. System notification. Navigation sprite default choice is Lord Little Gunny. Then a tongue sound came from the virtual panel, and a cute little gunny with a pair of wings appeared in front of them in a dazzling flash. Welcome to the Mercenary Academy. I'm your navigation sprite, little fairy sister. These children from the underground market had never seen such a scene before, so they were all on guard. Who are you? Questioning voices sounded one after another, and at the same time, it created quite a bit of chaos. Snow Wolf cleared his throat at the right time. Everyone, don't be too nervous. What appeared in front of you is just an image to introduce and answer your questions. Someone explained, and the restless children calmed down a little. The sprite in front of them explained after the questions. I'm your navigation sprite, and my mission is to guide you through the beginner's tutorial. First, I'd like to introduce the Mercenary Academy to you. The Mercenary Academy is a mysterious academy built in a spiritual realm that doesn't exist in the real world. There, you will be able to choose the subjects you want to learn according to your own wishes. It can be a daily life type or a combat type. However, the subjects will only start after you enter the primary level. Before that, you have to pass the official student exam and become an official student. Alright, you should first understand what kind of place the Mercenary Academy is. If you want to understand more, then work hard to become an official student. Next, I'll introduce you to the student system. What kind of place was the Mercenary Academy? The preparatory students were still in the dark. However, their attention was quickly attracted by the magical student system. The navigation sprite flew to the middle of the panel. First, I'll introduce the composition of the preparatory students' operation panel. The student's operation panel is controlled by the student's thoughts. Now focus your attention and move the circle of light to the left. The student's spiritual power was already connected with the system. The moment the spiritual power hit the circle of light moved according to the student's thoughts. The system wizard said, "Very well done. Now use the circle of light to lock onto your teaching assistant." The preparatory students looked at Snow Wolf, and the halo landed on his face. The data related to the Snow Wolf was displayed in the form of translucent text on the operation panel. Member title: Snow Wolf. Gender: male. Identity: junior teaching assistant. More information: insufficient authority. Note: in theory he is your full-time nanny, but if you treat him as a nanny, you will be beaten up. The message was simple, but not all of the orphans were literate. The voice of the navigation elf sounded. Now, with the aperture locked, bring up the tag function of the aperture and mark the assistant. A few of the older ones completed the task, while the others were stunned. The assistant panel opened by Snow Wolf showed the progress of the trainee's mission. Seeing that the student's mission had stopped moving, he understood what was going on. After all, this was not the first time he had taken in a child from the underground market. Are you illiterate? Now, I will send you a set of information. Everyone accept it. This will help you solve your problem. A notification popped up on the student panel of the preparatory students. You have received a basic knowledge information package from teaching assistant Snow Wolf. Please accept it. There was only one option on the panel. The navigation elf explained. To receive the information, please use your thoughts to click here. The students followed the instructions. Receiving progress bar: 50%, 100%. The system notification said, the basic knowledge information package requires a higher level of spiritual connection authority. Please relax your body and click confirm. Confirm. The person who clicked confirm felt his vision go blurry. Then he heard the system's voice again. The system's electronic voice sounded. The basic knowledge information package has been successfully downloaded. The Super Brain tool has been activated. Now log onto the teaching assistant again and proceed with the Super Brain tool's usage tutorial. The circle of light locked onto the teaching assistant again. Again, it was displayed in the form of text. But this time, there was a small circle of light above the text. The electronic voice said, control the small circle of light to cover the text in the information box. The circle of light covered the text. Then a small llama and a question mark appeared at the edge of the text box. The electronic voice said, the small speaker button at the top is for voice reading. The question mark button is for keyword search. Now click the small speaker button. Then the information about the teaching assistant was broadcasted in the form of voice. The Super Brain tool's teaching mission continued. Now lock onto the word teaching assistant alone. Which word was teaching assistant? The moment the thought arose in the student's mind, the color of the word teaching assistant in the text box became darker. Was it these two words? The student used the small circle of light to lock onto it. The small speaker appeared again. The electronic voice said, now click the question mark button below. The student curiously pressed the button below. Then, the explanation about teaching assistant appeared. The system's electronic voice said, the Super Brain tool is a multifunctional tool. Becoming an official student will unlock more functions. The students who successfully loaded the Super Brain tool's teaching mission continued. And the person who hesitated also attracted Snow Wolf's attention. It was a young man standing in the corner far away. He was 1.7 meters tall, and looked to be 16 or 17 years old. Snow Wolf walked up to the man and smiled. Why didn't you accept it? The young man raised his head and said, mental link is an illusion, right? If I agreed, I would fall into your illusion, right? Snow Wolf smiled kindly and said, you know quite a lot, but what does that matter? You've already sold your life to me, haven't you? The young man's eyes were cold. The ones who sold my life to you were those bastards in the underground market. I never agreed. Snow Wolf looked at the young man curiously. At first he thought he caught a rat. But with the young man's frank reaction, he didn't seem like a rat. Snow Wolf looked at him for a long time. The atmosphere in the bathroom was silent. Some people continued with the system's teaching without looking at others, while others stopped and looked over, waiting for the next development of the matter. Snow Wolf suddenly laughed heartily. Actually, I don't like the way those bastards do things. Then you can understand it in another way. We didn't buy you, but we used money to save you from there. The young man was ready to resist, but Snow Wolf's words were completely unexpected. You saved us? What's the difference? Snow Wolf replied. The difference is that we didn't buy your life. You don't have to listen to us all the time. You can choose to work and return the money we bought you for. Then we will set you free. Snow Wolf looked at the others in the room and said, the above applies to everyone present. So, please don't misunderstand us. The Mercenary University is not a dictatorial organization, but a place for you to learn more knowledge and grow into people with professional skills. Then, while supporting yourself, you will also benefit our country. That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.